What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the NFL Draft. Today, it's finally time. The NFL Draft Show here on the Slaw Sports Show, the NFL Draft Spectacular. I'm so excited to get started with the NFL Draft and absolutely ready to go for what is to come on the show. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for joining. Hope you guys are ready for the first round of the NFL Draft. It is officially go time. I could not be more excited and ready to go. So as everyone starts piling in and getting ready for the start of this thing, real quick, we will have an announcement on the show. We will be doing a giveaway. So we will be having three random draft picks on our first round board. I will announce it when the time comes for those picks. But once the team at that pick is on the clock and all the way up until the pick is in, I'll be watching the chat and you will give me the prospect you think will be picked at that selection. And if they are picked, your name will be added to a wheel and we will spin it for a gift card giveaway. So all three picks will be combined onto one wheel with one winner. So I'm excited, ready for a giveaway. Hope you guys are excited as well. Let's try to get lively in the chat throughout this entire first round. But, this is going to be an absolute blast. I'm so excited for this first round. Jacksonville Jaguars with the first pick, we have no idea what's going to happen. Quite honestly, we don't know what's going to happen from the get-go with this first overall pick. And then, from there, it just catapults to the rest of the order. We don't know what's going to happen from, 2 to the rest of the top 10 to the rest of the 32 after what happens with the Jaguars at 1. But I'm excited, ready to break it down and get into it. Hope you guys enjoy the setup we got going on. We are going to have the team who is on the clock up here behind us. For each pick, we're going to be announcing each pick as it's selected as well. So I'm ready to get going and get this thing started. Hope you guys are as well. So we're trying to, wait for this thing to get rolling on. So we're going to keep things just as simple as it can and have fun with it. But honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen in this draft. The quarterback news has been a lot of buzz today. Kenny Pickett's getting a lot of news. He could potentially go higher than we first imagined him going. I had him at our mock draft we did that came out yesterday morning. We had Kenny Pickett at 6, but a lot of news involving the Houston Texans potentially could be in the market for Kenny Pickett if they fall in love with him. And honestly, in general, the Texans are a very interesting team to see what they do, not only at 3, but also at 13. I'm hoping for a trade up potentially at 13, which could happen back into the top 10 for the Houston Texans with 2 first-round picks. But it's exciting. Let's go through real quick just the order that we're going to be seeing in the draft today. So the Jacksonville Jaguars picking first one up for the second year in a row. Last year took Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson with the number 1 overall pick. It was a big move by them that I really did not see going. So Trevor Lawrence, first overall pick last year. This year, I don't see what's going to happen, with this first pick. Could go a variety of different directions. It all depends. There's honestly a huge turmoil happening right now in the front office of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Between general manager Trent Balkey, newly hired head coach, Doug Peterson as well is going to have some input as well, and then of course the owner Shad Khan. What is he going to do with this first pick, and who's going to have the most input? From what we've heard, Trent Balkey really has the hold right now on Trayvon Walker. I think he really likes him. He's infatuated with him, a really athletic prospect. Maybe even the best athlete in the draft this year, Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. But the consensus of everyone's pick was Aiden Hutchinson all the way up until pretty much this week. It's just how fast the draft changes all of a sudden now. Trayvon Walker is at the forefront, but we all know head coach Doug Peterson's a big offensive guy. He could go with an offensive tackle here with this first pick. Really sure up last year's first overall pick in Trevor Lawrence to add some more beef up on that offensive line. So it really just depends on what's going to happen here. With the Jacksonville Jaguars at 1, also have the first pick tomorrow with the second round at 33. So the Jacksonville Jaguars first up on the board, and then comes the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions, really the shakeup happens after the Jaguars. What do? Are they going to go potentially with the guy that is missed with that first overall pick. Is it going to be Aiden Hutchinson, or is it going to be Trayvon Walker at 2? You can also potentially could look for Kayvon Thibodeaux. That's the one that's getting a lot of buzz right now. Kayvon Thibodeaux at 2 is going to be the most interesting selection if that one happens. It's got a lot of buzz the last few days, and I think it's really picking up some steam. Get up here. Yeah. Brad Holmes, general manager for the Detroit Lions. This guy's been infatuated with Kayvon Thibodeaux for a long time now. I'm talking multiple months leading up into this process. You think back, a year ago today, Kayvon Thibodeaux looked like the lock to be the number 1 overall pick. That has obviously now changed, but still a potential number 2 overall pick for Kayvon Thibodeaux. He could be the guy that comes off the board second in this draft to the Detroit Lions, which will shake up everything. I had personally Kayvon Thibodeaux falling to 8 in my mock draft to the Atlanta Falcons, but a real argument is going to be made. If Trayvon Walker goes 1, now you have Aiden Hutchinson fall to 2, and a real argument is it going to be Aiden Hutchinson, or is it going to be Kayvon Thibodeaux at 2? And it's ultimately going to lie on the shoulders of Brad Holmes. Which prospect does he trust his research on? And also relies heavily on the state of Michigan. Do they keep the Michigan guy in-house in Aiden Hutchinson is going to be a critical thing to watch with this number 2 pick. But we'll speed run the rest of the first round. Number 3, the Houston Texans, like I discussed earlier, sitting at that number 3 spot, first of their 2 selections. New York Jets, New York Giants at 4 and 5, and then just Panthers, Giants again at 7, Atlanta Falcons, Seattle Seahawks, New York Jets with their second pick at 10, Washington Commanders, Minnesota Vikings, Houston Texans, Baltimore Ravens, Philadelphia Eagles, New Orleans Saints, LA Chargers, Eagles again, Saints again, Steelers, Patriots, my Green Bay Packers at 22. Still a couple of hours away from that first pick, which I know everyone's excited for my reaction to the Green Bay Packers selection. That will come at 22. Arizona Cardinals at 23. Dallas Cowboys, Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Green Bay Packers at 28. Shout out, you get 2 Green Bay Packer reviews potentially out of me. There's still a lot of trade scenarios that could happen for the Packers with 2 first-round picks. Do they trade up? Do they trade back? What happens there at 22 and 28 will be interesting for sure that I'll keep an eye on. But then back-to-back picks by the Chiefs at 29 and 30, and the draft wraps up with the Bengals and the Detroit Lions. So that's our first-round board that we're looking at right now. That board, of course, subject to change as we go along. We're prepared for any type of trades that can happen tonight, so I'm excited for it, and I'm expecting it. I'm expecting a lot of trades tonight as soon as potentially the maybe 3 pick. We got the 6 pick. I think, that's what I had in my mock draft as my first potential trade. I think some teams might sneak in. And ultimately, what will be super interesting that I'm still looking out for is the Deebo Samuel situation with the San Francisco 49ers. Tonight's their last shot to make a trade where they can get selections for this year's pick and sneak into this first round of the draft. So keep an eye on, in my opinion, that number 10 selection by the New York Jets. See what happens. Just see what happens there with the Jets. I think they're really in that market for a potential Deebo Samuel where they're going to try to make a move and get him in a trade that will potentially shake up this entire draft board. The 49ers getting back into this thing will be absolutely insane if they can sneak into this first round after previously coming in today with no first-round pick. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But we're getting started here. The Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock with the first overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. We get a live look here in. Shad Khan sitting there with Trent Balkey, Doug Peterson in the house. We'll see how long it takes. Last year, it took literally 9 minutes, like 9.5 minutes to take Trevor Lawrence of the 10 minutes of the draft. So Jacksonville Jaguars here on the clock with the first overall pick. Let's see what happens here. Time ticking down, 9 minutes and 13 seconds right now that we're looking at. So this Jacksonville Jaguars team, 13-4 last year, obviously missed the playoffs, number 1 overall selection. They were obviously the worst team in football. So let's look at some potential tendencies of the Jacksonville Jaguars. First up, Trent Balkey, general manager of the Jaguars, favors defensive players. That's his go-to, excluding last year's two first-round selections in Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, 2 offensive guys at quarterback and running back. Outside of those 2 picks last year, This time, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think, will go with a defensive selection. Now, the question is that Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan, or is it Trayvon Walker out of Georgia? Two very interesting options off the edge that we have to consider looking for here with the Jacksonville Jaguars, or even a wild card. I mean, do we potentially consider seeing maybe even an Ike Ekwonu? Do we see an Ike Ekwonu come off the board at a tackle, multi-positional guy on the offensive line that honestly Trevor Lawrence and also Doug Peterson would love to add to that offense? But some more things. Rick Spielman should have some influence in this. He has some strong best player available tendencies, obviously, with the first overall pick. The best player available is the one they're going to go with the first pick in the draft. And he also likes to target defense early. So multiple heads in that war room right now in Jacksonville like defense and obviously like to target defense early and often in the first round of the draft. But like I said, Trent Balkey, super high on Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. He loves the arm length, loves the athleticism. But Shad Khan potentially is even more higher on Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan. So this is where that clash of heads takes place. These two guys going head-to-head in that front office right now. But this offseason for the Jaguars, bringing in Doug Peterson at head coach in free agency, they shored up that offensive line around Trevor Lawrence. They brought in Brandon Sheriff from Washington to start at offensive guard. They brought in Cam Robinson at tackle. They gave him an extension after franchising tagging him. He is now on board for the long term. Added in some defensive guys as well. The big one, Christian Kirk. Had a near record-setting contract, which I was not expecting at wide receiver. Evan Ingram at tight end, a early and big spending offseason this year by the Jacksonville Jaguars, trying to really shore that thing up. Most recently, also gave that fifth-year option to Josh Allen on the edge, their defensive end. So who do they potentially add alongside Josh Allen if they go that route at defensive end is going to be really the big thing to keep an eye on. So we'll see if we can pull up and get some talks on some Trayvon Walker and also some Aiden Hutchinson here. So Aiden Hutchinson, we'll start with him just because he is my first edge rusher on the board in my big board. This guy, 6'7", 265, a little bit lighter in weight than Trayvon Walker, 275, but also 2 inches taller is Aiden Hutchinson compared to him. Very ultra-productive edge rusher. Not the most, star freak, which is the big thing that's, pushing Trayvon Walker up to this number 1 spot potentially. But Aiden Hutchinson, he's as surefire gets in this year's first-round draft. This guy he's got the ideal size, he's quick, he's polished, everything you would want in a prospect. But the thing is, he's not flashy. He's not the splash that you would want potentially for your franchise with the number 1 overall pick, which is really interesting that Shad Khan is the one that's really high on Aiden Hutchinson this year. But this guy in the run game holds that point of attack, huge effort, nonstop on the backside, and will just absolutely get after it. Bull rush, hand swipes, dip and rips, anything you want. He has that in his arsenal, and he will do whatever it takes to get to that quarterback. So maybe not a 12 to 13 sack guy per season, but this guy is easily Pro Bowl level multiple times in his career and should be thought of that way for what he can do. So Aiden Hutchinson, that's what we're looking at for him. Trayvon Walker, on the other hand, like I said, the more versatile, the more athletic guy, exceptional length, athleticism, all the things that that Trent Balkey has been obsessed with this guy. The length, the athleticism, everything he is absolutely obsessed with. But the pick is in for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The pick is now in, so we'll see what we have. Let's wait for the commissioner to walk out here with a sea of boos. If anyone wants some boos in the chat, save it. I don't want that misinterpreted as boos from me. So let's just keep it to the let's goes and everything in there. We got an interesting selection here in the chat for this first overall pick. Javik Blake going with Matt Ariza, the punter out of San Diego State. Do we see a punter go 1.1 here to kick off the draft? That'll be quite the thing to see, Javik. So keep it up in the chat, guys. I'm seeing you all and ready to see what happens. So waiting on the commissioner, as always, Roger Goodell, to make his way in with the selection of the first pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we got 3 options here. I don't think it's going to come down to 4. I think there's 3 things at stake. If you want my take on it, I'm going Trayvon Walker with a 70%, Aiden Hutchinson a 20%, and an Ike Ekwonu a 10% if you want my percentages on it. So let's see what we get with this first pick. I'm super excited to really kick this thing off. The commissioner's just going to take all day, it seems like. So we'll see what happens. Jacksonville Jaguars, let's take a look at their defense since we think this is likely the route they're going to go. Last year, 28th in the league in scoring, 20th in total defense. The big thing, 24th against the rush and 27th in pass rush, which is the big thing why we think a number 1 pick here is going to be a defensive end. But again, it's the question, Trayvon Walker or Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, I did a full video on this. These 2 guys going side by side. So we'll see what happens here with this first overall pick. It's time to get this thing started. Keep things going. Let's keep it going in the chat. Stay lively. Keep things rolling along the way, and we'll see what happens. Here comes the commissioner with the number 1 pick in the draft. Yeah, the suspense is building, guys. I know it. And there it is. The first pick in the NFL draft is the guy we projected. It's going to be Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, coming in with the first pick in the NFL draft, going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trayvon Walker, the guy we expected to see, here he is with the first pick in the draft. So we're going to bring it back. Trayvon Walker going 1.1 as expected. So Aiden Hutchinson now on the board. They skipped on Hutchinson. Let's see what happens with him. Does he stay in the home state of Michigan to the Detroit Lions, who are now up next? So Trayvon Walker, it's great to see there with his family at home. Was not in person in Vegas. But there we go. 1 pick down is going to be put it down here on the board. Trayvon Walker, defensive end from Georgia, going 1. This guy started all 15 games last season for the Georgia Bulldogs, the national champions. 13 tackles for a loss, 36 games played, 9.5 sacks in his career. So that was a big thing for him, only 9.5 sacks. There's people in this draft that had 9.5 sacks last season. And he did that in his entire career. So there's a little bit of some worry. We're going to see what happens here in his career in Jacksonville. But Trayvon Walker now teaming up on that edge with Josh Allen is going to be a sight to see in Jacksonville. Try to turn this thing around. And it's interesting to me that the one here that got the final say was Trent Balkey. Trent Balkey was the one that overcame Shad Khan with this number 1 pick, made the choice known. So next up, the Detroit Lions are on the clock, and that pick was fast. The pick is in. We'll see what happens here with this number 2 overall pick, in which way they are going to go with it. But the pick is already in for the Detroit Lions. That honestly worries me. I mean, all this time, we thought that the Detroit Lions, were going to go potentially with a Kayvon Thibodeaux. I talked about with the Detroit Lions how general manager Brad Holmes has been infatuated with Kayvon Thibodeaux for years, months, even years leading up to this draft right now. He's on the board here at 2. Do they go with Kayvon Thibodeaux, the guy that we expected and many expected to be the top guy on this board? But no one expected Aiden Hutchinson to be here. It's a real argument now. Aiden Hutchinson still on the board at 2. I don't know. This is interesting. I have in my mock draft, the way I have this going is Aiden Hutchinson at 2 to the Detroit Lions. So this one's going to be interesting to see. Do they keep the home state guy in-house and keep things rolling along here, or do they make the change-up of the, potentially the draft right here? I mean, do they go with the Kayvon Thibodeaux at 2, get the guy Brad Holmes loves, get the guy that will pick up where he left off and push this defensive line to the next level? This is the one that's going to be super interesting. But the Detroit Lions, we talked about, a potential issue with them last season. We talked about the Jaguars, the pass rush, big issue for the Jaguars, even more so for the Detroit Lions, ranked 30th in the league last season in pass rush, 28th in defense against the run, 31st overall total scoring defense. So here comes the commissioner with the second pick of the draft. Is it going to be Aiden Hutchinson or will it be Kayvon Thibodeaux for the change-up that we're expecting to see? So let's get it ready here for this next pick in the draft and see what happens. So we're going to see. And the pick is in. Yep, someone in the chat already beat me to it. Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan, 2 for 2 so far to start off the draft. Here we go, guys. Here we go. Aiden Hutchinson, the second pick of the NFL draft, coming in to the Detroit Lions. The home guy stays home. What a selection by the Detroit Lions. I absolutely love this. So Aiden Hutchinson and Trayvon Walker, the two guys off the board. Trayvon to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Aiden Hutchinson here now too. So pencil it in. Aiden Hutch and son. Detroit Lions. What a pick by the Jaguars. The Detroit Lions. I love this. I love this fit. I love everything about this for the Lions right now. A guy who is uber productive. I mean, this guy ultra productive even right now. Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah, you got it in the chat. Aiden Hutchinson, number 2, going off the board here. Yeah, there we go. Let's go. Keep things rolling along. What a pick. I mean, here he is. Aiden Hutchinson live in Las Vegas with the commissioner right now, holding up that number 1 Hutchinson jersey. I love this fit. This is a great fit right now for the Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchinson is going to do wonders for him. Pick right up on that defensive line, and they are just going to love him in Michigan. I mean, the fans in Michigan, they have been through a lot with this Detroit Lions team, and right now he's exactly what Dan Campbell needs for that defense. I'm excited to see him get to work, and I'm excited to see what they do here with their second first-round pick as well at 32, depending on how this board goes. But we'll pull up the background behind us. The Houston Texans now on the clock with the third pick of the NFL draft. So Aiden Hutchinson going to the Detroit Lions at number 2. What a pickup by them. I talked about all this guy, all the things he can do as a pass rusher. Dan Campbell, man, you got to love him. There he is. Fired up, jacked up, and juiced as always. I love that guy. One of my favorite coaches I love watching in the league. Even going into his second season as a head coach, I bet he is fired up right now that they got Aiden Hutchinson. What a pickup by them. But next up, we do have the Detroit Lions. The Houston Texans at number 3. They are on the clock right now. You see it behind us. So Hutchinson getting interviewed right now. We'll now transition to talk about the Houston Texans. So the Texans here at number 3 with the first of 2 picks in this year's first round. So let's talk about some potential scenarios they could go with here. The board shaked up. No more Trayvon Walker. No more Aiden Hutchinson. Could we potentially see a cornerback here? That's the interesting one. That's one that's been rumored all year, all week. Not all year, all week. The big thing has been cornerback as a link to the Houston Texans. Is it Lovie Smith that's been pushing this? Is it general manager Nick Caserio? He's got the Patriots ties. Is he potentially the one pushing this right now for maybe a cornerback with his Patriot ties? You know how they value their corners in New England. But 14-3 last year for the Houston Texans. Missed the playoffs under first-year quarterback Davis Mills. Started 13 games last year, 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I want to see the route they go here. I picked Evan Neal. I think that they're going to try to put all their arsenal, all their draft picks into potentially making the situation something where they can see what they really have in Davis Mills. Do they, give him a wide receiver at 13? But I think the big start is going to be up front on that offensive line. Go with a guy who will protect him for his entire career or even protect the next quarterback. I mean, if Davis Mills isn't the guy in Houston, at least get a guy now, a bookend offensive tackle that can really shore up that offensive line in Houston. So is that going to be Evan Neal out of Alabama, the behemoth up front, or is it going to be the versatile and multi-positional Akeem Ekwonu out of NC State? That's the two that I'm having my eyes on right now. But they got to shore up that offensive line. Marcus Cannon's gone, a big loss at tackle. They potentially have a situation coming up with Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, but tackle is the most important position that this team needs going forward right now. It's their number 1 need on my board. Defensive end, linebacker, wide receiver, running back. They need a lot of positions, but number 1 has to be an offensive tackle. And right now, with 2 edge rushers coming off the board of the first 2 picks, they can have a pick of any offensive tackle that they will like with this pick. So we'll see what they go with here with this selection at number 3. I mean, the pick's in, but the commissioner's taking his time, it seems like always. So we're going to try to get a head start on him and pull some things up for you guys. So keep things going in the chat. Looks like the pick is starting to come in for the Houston Texans. Some people in the chat saying it might be a corner. I don't know. We'll see. A corner would be a big change up here for the Houston Texans. I mean, if they go to Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley potentially here with this first pick, that shakes up everything with this draft board and, gives me my first missed pick. So here we go. Third pick. First of the first 2 selections for the Houston Texans in this year's first round. Do they go with the offensive lineman or they go a corner route? And there it is. Changing it up. We're going to pull it up here for you guys. They're going to go with it. A corner at 3. Derek Stingley Jr. Not even my top corner on the board. This one, honestly, is a shocker. A big surprise, but one I've seen a lot of, especially this past week. Matt Ariza, the time in the chat. There we go. Let's see it. Number 4, Matt Ariza to the Jets. But Derek Stingley, cornerback out of LSU, coming off the board here at number 3 to the Houston Texans. This one has Lovie Smith's name all over it. This guy is a huge dude, great in zone coverage, an absolute machine there on the back end for a defense. Had a phenomenal first 2 years. Trying to pull it up. Phenomenal first 2 years he had at LSU. The last 2 years had a little bit of some issues on the field. We don't really know what it's connected to. We talked a lot about that last week, yesterday. Yesterday on the show, breaking down the defensive back class, we talked about the issues Derek Stingley had the last 2 years and how he's going to be able to overcome that now in the NFL and get back to what that game was his first 2 seasons at LSU. But a guy with ideal size, speed, and fluidity at the position. Like I said, inconsistent the last 2 times. But this guy is a beast in zone coverage, is everything this team will want for the Houston Texans. Next up will be the New York Jets. Go ahead and get that one ready to go. But this one, a big shocker here at the number 3 selection for the Houston Texans, going with Derek Stingley Jr. Like I said, Lovie Smith's name all over this. A guy who loves his zone coverage cornerbacks. He's going to fit right into that defense in Houston. And, it's their first piece. It's honestly that first piece of that defense that is actually going to be a surefire, long-term guy that they are now going to have for that franchise. So we'll see how they work him back into shape of what he was his first 2 years. Guy who has a smooth back pedal, explodes out of his plants with great instincts as well. So I like this pick as much as it's a surprise. This one is big for the Houston Texans. Coming out of nowhere, Nick Caserio staying true to his Patriot ties and picking a cornerback at the 3rd overall pick. So the first shakeup of this year's draft. So the first one I have missed. So we are now 2 for 3 on the first round right now. So that really just shakes everything up. So we'll see what happens here. At 4, do we keep things going? This one is going to be the interesting one to see. We'll see if we can get some things going here. Any type of rumors, what's going on here, and some talk going on. I'm ready for the trades. So let's give me some trades. Let's get something, juice up some energy and get things rolling along here. But the Houston Texans at 3, like I said, going with Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU. So now we're going to turn the tape and turn the sheets. And we are now on the New York Jets, as you can see behind us. There we go. New York Jets on the clock right now with this next selection. Their first of 2 in the top 10. Last year took Zach Wilson and Elijah Vera Tucker in the first round. Went offense with both 2 picks in the first round this year. This time, do they go defense or they keep things up front on offense? This will be interesting to see. A lot of talk about if Kayvon Thibodeaux is at 4, he is the pick. But also some news that maybe the Jets like Jermaine Johnson II out of Florida State if they want to go with an edge rusher. I think the ideal scenario for me, go with Ike Ekwonu out of NC State. Pair up Elijah Vera Tucker with the best interior offensive lineman in the class, but also a guy who's multi-positional. There's a lot of issues right now with Mekhi Becton. They're young, starting left tackle. If he is not the guy and they decide to move on from him, and a guy who last year weighed in at over 400 pounds, had a lot of issues They had some issues already with him this year, reporting to voluntary training camp. So why not get a tackle? Go ahead and fix that scenario right now. Get a tackle in Ike Ekwonu or even Evan Neal, in my opinion, is going to be the way to go with this one. So New York Jets, first of 2 first-round picks. 16 of their last 17 picks in the first round made by Joe Douglas have been college captains. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on. And also, the New York Jets have traded 5 of their last 10 first-round picks. Sam Darnold, you got Leonard Williams, you got Pryor, Richardson, Jamal Adams. 5 guys of their last 10 first-round picks who have been traded from the team already. So, we got a Jets going to fumble the bag in here in the chat. It is the Jets. The Jets are going to Jets, so we'll see what they do. I'm hoping for an offensive lineman here. Protect Zach Wilson, your young franchise quarterback. Give him another piece in that offensive line. Let him go to work. But even, a defensive guy and head coach and Robert Saleh, he can even go potentially with the cornerback here in Sauce Gardner. He can go with an edge rusher in either Kayvon Thibodeaux or Jermaine Johnson. So we'll see what the Jets do coming up here next and see what happens here. So we're going to figure out what the case is going to be with this pick next for the New York Jets. This one's really, the way this board's gone, they're going to go in a weird scenario here with this number 10 pick. So we're waiting on the broadcast to come back. Here it comes with this next pick in the first round. Number 4 selection, like I said, first of 2 top 10 selections for the New York Jets. We'll see what they go with here. The pick is in, and we'll see what happens. Joe Douglas had a big free agency as well. Brought in a lot of people. Jordan Whitehead, Laken Tomlinson, reassigned a lot of people. C.J. Uzama's coming to town. Solomon Thomas, an old friend of Robert Saleh from their time in San Francisco. Added a couple corners, a couple kickers as well. Kickers, not corners. Quarterbacks. Mike White re-signed. Joe Flacco re-signed. So a lot of re-signings by the Jets this year. So we'll see what they do here with this next pick. Pick is in. We're waiting on it. See what happens here with this first pick. Missed the playoffs. So what a good stat. Missed the playoffs for 11th straight season up on the broadcast. Another Matt Araiza for 4. Let's go Matt Araiza. We got some Matt Araiza hype. Get him in this first round. Will be a sight to see. So we've had 3 straight defensive picks. So we have a 4th here where we finally get some offensive guys on the board in this year's first round. We'll see what happens coming up here with the New York Jets. It's exciting to see. I mean, their defense was abysmal, but their offense wasn't much hotter. We talk about the defense. They were last in the league in scoring, last in the league in total defense, 30th in passing defense, 29th in rushing defense, 26th in pass rush. The offensive line, they're in the bottom 20s in all the categories on offense as well. So any pick here honestly works and is a immediate upgrade for the New York Jets. So like I said, first of 2 picks. First one here at number 4. Looks like the commissioner is making his way out here, hopefully soon, to make this selection. And we'll see what happens here with the New York Jets. And keep in mind, guys, keep the phones off. We're breaking it live here on the show. No issues so far, but keep the phones off, keep it going. We'll see what happens. The commissioner here making the pick. And with the 4th pick, the New York Jets, with their first of 2 top 10 picks, are going to select Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati. Now, here is my top corner on the board, finally coming off here to the New York Jets. Surprisingly, he wasn't the first, but now he's the 2nd and the 4th overall pick in this year's draft. Ahmad Gardner, a freakishly tall, long cornerback. This guy is elite as elite can get. Look at him walking up there with the sauce chain on, the sauce bottle and the sauce underneath it. This guy is exceptional. Reroutes opponents time and time again on that offensive line. In the passing game, rerouting opponents at wide receiver, using his length to his advantage. Great fluidity, which I love in my cornerbacks and his hips. Exploiting out of breaks, opening his hips, and being able to run with these top tier wide receivers that he faced in that division, that conference in Cincinnati. He's going to have a little bit of a jump here going into the NFL, but I think has all the natural things ready to go. Overall, an excellent pick here by the New York Jets. I think the other team in New York has got to be absolutely livid right now. and the New York Giants, who are the next team on the clock. They've been linked to Sauce Gardner for a while now, but the Jets are the ones who make the move. This is surprising. I didn't think the Jets would honestly go with the corner route here with this pick. It's surprising to me that they made this decision. Don't get me wrong. Robert Saleh, head coach, a defensive guy. He knows his biggest need on that defense was getting a cornerback. I had that as my biggest need for the Jets in general on their entire board, was getting a corner. I didn't think it would happen in the draft. But, they didn't get one in free agency, but they got one here. Yeah, rare Jets W, that's for sure, in the chat. Being able to get this done is absolutely insane. But Sauce Gardner, guy who's 6'2", 190, ran a 4.4 140, which we have up on the broadcast here. Overall athleticism, insane. This guy is all over the field. Great pickup by the Jets. Sure's up for sure. That secondary now, they got their number one now in that secondary in Sauce Gardner. So like I said, a little bit of a change up, but rare Jets W for sure. So 4 straight defensive selections now on this board, which is pretty absurd to me. Still no offensive guys, some great offensive line talent still available. We'll see when we start getting some run on some wide receivers, once we start getting down to the bottom of this top 10 potentially. But overall, what we got working with here right now, Sauce Gardner going to the Jets. And next up, we have the New York Giants, the other team in New York. Also, first of 2 top 10 selections for the Giants, the G-Men as they're called. So new head coach, new general manager in-house, and all new staff for the New York Giants. Joe Schoen now at general manager. We quoted him. He said he wants as many bats as you can get and is looking at economic benefits. So defensive end, offensive tackle, the best economic benefits you can have on your team in terms of value at the being a first-round selection, how the salary cap works with positional values, that type of thing. If he wants the best economic benefits, he's gonna have to look at offensive tackle and defensive end. Still, one defensive end we have our eye on right now is Kayvon Thibodeaux. Was linked very early to the New York Giants, and often until as of late that talk's been quieting down, or they go potentially with an offensive tackle. You got Evan Neal still on the board, Charles Cross, and Ike Ekwonu, the 3 top offensive linemen. Still on the board here. No offensive players selected so far in this year's draft. So a team that declined to pick up the 5th-year option on quarterback Daniel Jones, and an offense that was 31st last year in total offense, scoring offense, and passing offense, all 31st in the NFL. We'll see what they do here. Daniel Jones, he needs a surefire offensive tackle to protect him on that offensive line. So I'm really hoping that's what they go with here. But head coach Brian Daboll, making his debut in this first round here as the coach of the Giants with their first pick. We have him on our notes saying that he has 3 traits he looks for in a player, guys that are smart, tough, and dependable. The 3 things that he looks for in his prospects. Haven't won a playoff game since their last Super Bowl win. Daniel Jones here we have 12 and 25 as a starter. Not good. Already some issues from their first round last year with wide receiver Kadarius Toney was their first round pick last year. Played 10 games, 0 touchdowns, only 420 yards on the season. But the issues right now with him are not showing up to voluntary training camp. He has now shown up as of late, but potentially he was on the trade market for a while now, which is a lot of big news late last week, early this week with Kadarius Toney. But Azeez Ojulari, another big pickup last draft by the Giants at defensive ends, played all 17 games, 29 tackles, had 8 sacks and 13 quarterback hits as a rookie. Really made sure that he made an impact in year 1. So do the Giants pair up Azeez Ojulari with another defensive end here? Or do they go with an offensive lineman to protect not only Daniel Jones, but also running back Saquon Barkley as well? They need some help and bad on that offensive line in order to shore up them. So we'll see what happens here. The commissioner heading out for the New York Giants selection. Again, their first of 2 top 10 selections in this year's draft. Here comes the 5th overall pick in this year's draft. We'll see what happens and see what the commissioner gives us. looks like he might be handing over the reins with this selection. But the first pick in the Joe Schoen era, a lot to be excited about here with this pick. If you're a New York Giant fan, we'll see what happens here. Do they go offensive line, or do they go with a potential edge rusher to go along with Azeez Ojulari, 2 young pass rushers? And again, the big pick here could be Kayvon Thibodeaux. They've been locked to him for a while now. A lot of links between the two selections, and I mean, we'll see. We'll see what they go with here with their first pick, offensive line or defensive line. And I mean, that defensive line is going to be Kayvon Thibodeaux. If they go with edge rusher, I don't see any other pick they go with Aiden Hutchinson and Trayvon Walker off the board. So here we go. We'll see what happens. Taking their sweet time as always here with this pick. But Make-A-Wish recipient Sam Prince here giving the pick for the New York Giants first round selection. All right, and there it is. They're going to go with the defense. Kayvon Thibodeaux, the guy we said has been locked to him for a while now, comes off the board. Kayvon Thibodeaux going to the New York Giants at number 5. All right, this next pick, actually we'll wait. We'll wait for now. But here, I mean, Kayvon Thibodeaux, yeah, we see in the chat, got to be offensive line. How do they not go offensive line here? I mean, Daniel Jones was absolutely crushed last year with that offensive line they had. Saquon Barkley the same way. He couldn't get, 2 steps after getting the handoff until he was smacked. I don't know how to go with an edge rusher here. I would have waited until 7, but Kayvon Thibodeaux at 5, I mean, they got their guy. They still have another pick at 7 to make things right. 2 picks, still 3 tackles on the board. They're going to come away with a tackle regardless. With this next pick they have at 7. But next up we do have, for now, the Carolina Panthers. I think this is the big hot spot here for a trade. I had it in the mock draft. We'll see what can transpire with this one. But Thibodeaux here going to the New York Giants. We'll try to pull up some Kayvon Thibodeaux talk. Guy's 6'4", 272, tremendous burst off the snap. This guy, he's not the most elite bender off the edge, but he's been another guy coming out of Oregon who was very productive, had a lot of speed to get to after the quarterback. And the big thing with Kayvon Thibodeaux is making sure his heart is in the game. Does he truly want to be an NFL player? That's the question that now they have to get out of him in New York and answer that question. Is he ready for the big stage and ready for all the stars and fame that comes with it? But the number 5 pick, a top 5 selection in this year's draft, Kayvon Thibodeaux, a guy who was expected to be the number 1 overall pick early on in this process. Early on, I mean like the end of last year's draft. Everyone, immediately looked at Kayvon Thibodeaux. But this guy is an insane freak coming off the board here. Unanimous pick in 2021 as an All-American selection on the AP All-American team. All of the production that you would want at him was there. So next up, we have the Carolina Panthers at 6. Do we see a trade happen here? It's going to be the interesting thing. Or do the Panthers stay? I mean, the Panthers are in the market for a top-tier offensive tackle. Sam Darnold was under a lot of pressure last year. Christian McCaffrey was hurt, I think, twice last season alone. So a lot of injuries for him. But Scott Fitterer frequently trades down in the first round. That's what his tendencies are, going back to Seattle Seahawks days. Last year, the Panthers came out, instead of going with an offensive player, went with a defensive selection in the first round in J.C. Horn, who only played 3 games before suffering a season-ending injury. But yeah, this one's going to be interesting. They extended DJ Moore at wide receiver, which is the big move. Extended Dante Jackson at cornerback as well. Didn't do as much as signing as you would like to see. Just pretty much just replacing guys. So still a lot of holes in this roster. Still no quarterback in Carolina right now, unless you want to count Sam Darnold as being a quarterback for next season. I don't think they go into it that way. So do they go a quarterback route here? Maybe a Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. Maybe a Malik Willis. Even potentially out of Liberty. But with less than 3 minutes on the clock, it's looking like the Panthers will be making a selection here. So the Panthers 5-12 last season, 4-7 with Sam Darnold at the helm. Do they go with a quarterback at this pick, or do they go with an offensive lineman? We'll see What kind of things can transpire here with this pick? For that one, not Kayvon Thibodeaux. He's already gone. So this next pick with the Carolina Panthers at 6, it's definitely looking like they're going to stay here now. 2.5 minutes on the clock. Still waiting for the pick to be in for them and see what they come up with. Not a Kayvon Thibodeaux, but we'll see which route the Panthers go with here. I mean, I don't like any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft to take them this high, in my opinion. If they're going to make a pick, which is looking like they will, you got to go with an offensive lineman. So do they keep a guy in state in Ike Ekwonu, or do they keep a guy, or do they get a guy out of Alabama who could potentially be a better prospect in Evan Neal? This one will be exciting to see what they go with here with this first pick. So the Carolina Panthers at 6, the pick is in. And we're taking a break on the broadcast, it looks like, with the pick being in. So we'll see what we go with here. The Panthers, last year, we'll talk about some numbers game with them on offense. 29th in scoring, 30th in total offense, 29th in passing offense, 20th in rushing offense, 28th in blocking offense, so pass block there for them. 28th on that offensive line. They have to make some type of addition here. I mean, they have to really find a way to fix this offensive line, protect Christian McCaffrey who's coming back, protect whatever quarterback it's going to be. I don't think a quarterback is here. So I'm leaning offensive line, leaning offensive tackle with this pick, and we'll see which way they go with it. But this one is a big move. This one's a big move to see which route they go with here with the number 6 overall pick. And honestly, the big thing for the Panthers, now that they have the pick in, they're picking here at 6. We don't think it's a quarterback. So who's that quarterback going to be? I mean, it's not going to be Sam Darnold, you'd have to think, going into next season. So I think once this draft concludes and the Panthers are still out of this without a quarterback, you're going to have to potentially start looking at a Baker Mayfield potentially, maybe even a Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's really the only 2 options on the board right now for the Panthers at quarterback. They don't want to go with Sam Darnold. They'll either go with Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, and that's going to be, it looks like now a post-draft trade that the Panthers will have to do to secure their quarterback of the future, or even, potentially stopgap for now. Big quarterback class coming up next year. So 2 options I do have for the Panthers at offensive line. Number 1, I think you go with the in-house guy from North Carolina, the NC State, Ike Ekwonu. I think he's just more multi-positional versatility up front. A lot of holes. You got holes at guard. You got holes at tackle for the Panthers. Ike is a guy that you can just put wherever you want to on that offensive line and see. Yeah, Robbie Anderson doesn't want Baker. And there's a mutual disinterest on both sides as well with the Panthers and Baker Mayfield with that one. But back to it, Ike Ekwonu, I think would be a good pick here. We'll see what happens, though, but it's an area of need. I think Ike will be an easy choice for them. The guy's thick. He's powerful. He can play a lot of positions. Pretty nasty, too, honestly. When he gets a hand on some guys, he can be pretty nasty with them. Has a powerful punch. Honestly, not the most finished product, but I just love that dual positional ability. And I think that's what the Panthers need, a guy that can play potentially edge and guard and tackle. A guy that can do both on this offensive line for the Panthers. That's why I want to lean more towards Ike. But the other guy is the massive guy that I said was the mountain up front in Evan Neal out of Alabama. 6'7", 350. This guy is huge. In the passing game, he was great. In the run game, he was just as good. I was a great anchor against power rushers. So, that's a big boy. That guy can take on some of these top-tier defensive linemen in the National Football League who are also monsters of themselves. So, yeah, Ike or Evan Neal. That's going to be the selection here with this next pick. And it looks like the pick is going to come in, and it is going to be Ike Ekwonu. Keep the guy in state in Akeem Ekwonu. What a great pickup there. Ike Ekwonu coming in at number 6. What a great pickup here by the Carolina Panthers. So officially being announced, there we go. There we have it. Ike Ekwonu to the Carolina Panthers, shoring up that offensive line. What a story of Ike Ekwonu, too. I love this guy going into this year's draft. What a suit he's got on. Wow. That guy's dripped out as can be. But Ike Ekwonu, 6'4", 320, coming into this Panthers offensive line as an immediate starter, and honestly, immediately, probably the best guy they have on that offensive line. I mean, not even, as of right now, they are the best guy. He is the best guy that they now have on this offensive line. So now Carolina Panthers, we are going to go with Ike Ekwonu. So 2 tackles on the board here now for the New York Giants. They are going to be next on the clock with the second pick of their first round. So New York Giants, here we go, back at it again. They missed on a tackle at number 5 and took Kayvon Thibodeaux. Now back up at 7. Get your guy. He's on the board. Get the guy on the offensive line. Get the guy up front. I like Evan Neal with this pick. I think it's just a home run selection. Sauce Gardner's off the board. He's out of the scenario. You've already took it on defense with Kayvon Thibodeaux at edge. Fix your need. Your number 1 need has to be a tackle. Go with the surefire. My number 1 tackle on the board, Evan Neal. The mountain is right there for you. So we'll see what the Giants do here at 7. If they trade back, honestly, at this pick, that would be unbelievable if they go that direction with this first pick. I mean, or even if they go defense. If they trade or go defense right now, that would be absurd. Joe showing you got to get it right this time. Go with an offensive lineman, as many bats as you can get. I mean, I talked about the economic benefit that Joe Schoen is looking for. Going with a defensive end with that first pick in Kayvon Thibodeaux, now potentially going with a tackle here. That's the best value you get in the top 10 in the first round. In terms of positional value, how the salary cap works for these rookies on their rookie contract. The best value you get at defensive end and offensive lineman. That's why we always see it. That's why we always see it happening with the defensive lineman and the offensive lineman going very early in the drafts year after year. So they got the foundational cornerstone on their defensive line with a real New York character on their first pick and Kayvon Thibodeaux. We'll see what they do here with the second pick. Evan Neal on the board. If they don't like Evan Neal, I mean, there's some talk that Evan Neal might start sliding in this year's draft. He's still on the board at 7. If he's still on the board at 7, they don't go with him. He continues to slide. That would be a really interesting shakeup because there's been a lot of buzz with Evan Neal, potentially some medical concerns with him at his size. So maybe a Charles Cross could be a pick here out of Mississippi State for the New York Giants. So this one likely going to be the interesting one of the draft. Yeah, Giants offensive line for sure. Yeah, you'd have to think so. I mean, I definitely do. I don't know why they would go any other direction here other than offensive line. So we'll see what happens here with this Giants pick. But the pick is in. Waiting on the commissioner here to see what happens with this next pick. Continuing on our first round of the NFL draft, the number 7 pick. We'll see what the Giants go with here. Kayvon Thibodeaux at 5, great selection. Like I said, real New York character, fits that defense a lot, and is a real guy that they're gonna love with that pick. So remember, phones, Twitter off. I'm keeping it the same way, hoping to see all of this live and breaking with this pick. I'm sure there's a little bit of a delay, so yeah, stay patient and stay with me here with this Giants pick. Gotta be a tackle. You would have to think with this first pick, first selection in this year's draft. But coming up, the next pick, we'll save it. We'll save it. I want to get to these giveaways, but I'm going to save it for a little while. We're going to do 3 picks that we're going to have as a giveaways, potentially for you guys to get some action here in the chat and see if you can, hopefully predict it. But again, we'll talk about the giveaway real quick while we're waiting on Goodell to come up here. The giveaway we're going to be doing, once the next team is on the clock, I will announce the giveaway. Everyone in the chat will will predict who they think the pick will be. And once the pick is in, then we will stop taking submissions then. And if you get it right, then you'll be added to the wheel along with along with the 2 other picks. So, multiple people can get it right here. But here we go. Second pick for the New York Giants at 7. And, yep, as expected, Evan Neal, the tackle off the board. So the fall starts at 7 for Evan Neal, behemoth offensive tackle. We talked about how big of a big boy this guy is. Now they got a foundational cornerstone on that defensive line in Kayvon Thibodeaux. Now we're giving them a foundational cornerstone on the offensive line now, teaming up with a guy still on his rookie contract in Andrew Thomas as well. So 2 now young and potential franchise tackles for the New York Giants that they're going to work with. What a great pickup at 7. I mean, this is a guy I thought they should have gone with at 5. Honestly, a guy I didn't think would even last till 5. Going back to my mock draft, had Evan Neal at 3. Instead, he falls to 7 to the New York Giants. So what a pickup there at number 7. Next up on the board behind us here, the Atlanta Falcons. Now on the clock with the 8th overall pick. Do we see a quarterback here? The Atlanta Falcons, of course, traded quarterback Matt Ryan this offseason. They did sign Marcus Mariota at quarterback, so he's looking like the stopgap for now. But an interesting pick here, I think. We talked about it yesterday. We talked about it yesterday on the show. Me and Matt Laguza talked about the Atlanta Falcons last year in the first round threw everything about positional value out of the water, and they went with a tight end in Kyle Pitts. But a guy who's played 17 games last season, all 17, had over 1,000 yards as a tight end. I think he broke the record that Mike Ditka had for most yards as a rookie tight end in his first year. Maybe they go with a route where they go best player available with this pick, and in my opinion, that best player available is Kyle Hamilton. I love Kyle Hamilton, but the big thing at safety is the positional value. Do the Falcons really go with it, the second time in a row where they just throw positional value out of the water and go with a Kyle Hamilton here? Or do they go with the first wide receiver off the board? In my mock draft, I had them getting Kayvon Thibodeaux. Obviously, that is now out of the question. So we'll see. He did it. So second most for Kyle Pitts. 28-3 chance this is a bad pick. That's a good one. So we'll see what the Atlanta Falcons do here at 8. But let's look at some tendencies. So Arthur Smith, he likes to build his team with his offensive scheme in mind, talent-wise. The one thing they're missing right now is that big body wide receiver he loves. You talked about the time back with the Tennessee Titans. They ended up drafting the Atlanta Falcons ended up drafting Tennessee Titans drafting A.J. Brown. Big body wide receiver. We'll see what happens here with the Atlanta Falcons. Do they go with that kind of mold in this first round with a big body wide receiver that they would want to have in Arthur Smith's offense? But honestly, with the holes of their entire roster right now, they can go with any pick they want to. I talked about it in the mock draft as a versatile pick where they can choose whatever they want to that makes the most sense value-wise with this selection. So could that be offensive line? Could that be defense? Could that be, it could be edge, D-tackle here, Jordan Davis potentially. Could they go, Kyle Hamilton, wide receiver, options there, Drake London, Garrett Wilson on the board. This will be an interesting pick with the Atlanta Falcons to see which avenue they go with. Honestly, the big body wide receiver makes sense. Yeah, I mean, we see the on the board here. Our pick is in for the Falcons, but we just saw that headline that they did brought up that I have to keep in mind is the Calvin Ridley suspension. How much does that play a role here with this selection in the first round? Do they potentially go a wide receiver route? Do they maybe I don't know. I mean, with Kayvon Thibodeaux off the board, your only real offensive lineman is going to be Charles Cross. It would make sense. I'm going to lean towards it. It would make sense for a wide receiver. Yeah, we see it's going to be a London in the chat. So this one would make sense to see which avenue they go with here. So pick is in at 8. Try to get things pulled up with the Atlanta Falcons to see what avenue they could go with. But yeah, wide receiver makes sense. Rob says Davis. Yeah, Jordan Davis makes a lot of sense. I would like that selection here for the Atlanta Falcons. A big guy up front, one of the best guys on the board. You'd have to think an overall just unreal athlete at the defensive tackle spot. And when we talk about Evan Neal being huge, Jordan Davis is huge and athletic. That guy is an absolute beast with what he can do on the defensive line in Georgia. So he'd be another great pickup here by the Falcons. but I want to lean wide receiver. I mean, I'm with the guy in the chat. Yeah, so we're a little bit behind, it seems like, from the live coverage for what you guys are throwing in here. So we'll see what they go with. Here comes the commissioner, the 8th pick in the NFL draft. It's going to be the guy out of USC. Drake London at wide receiver is going to be the 8th pick to the Atlanta Falcons. They got the big body guy. I mean, a big body contested catch machine. Not my number 1 receiver on the board, but I'm not surprised to see him go 1. This guy, 6'5", 210 pounds, out of USC. Huge, rare catch radius. There's a lot of issues that some people had with him in terms of getting separation. But overall, a contested catch machine. I had him mocked to the Philadelphia Eagles with their first pick, but instead now going to the Atlanta Falcons. And guys, it's time. I'm doing it here. Number 9. We're going to do our first giveaway. So get in the chat who is going to be the 9th overall selection. And when the Seahawks pick is in, they are on the clock now. When the Seahawks selection is in, I'm stopping submissions there. So get your submissions in now. Who will be the next pick in this year's draft? If you get it right, you're added to the wheel for a giveaway of a gift card wherever you would like to see it. Yeah, won't ever be open in the NFL game. Yeah, not a separator by any means is Drake London. So this is a big pickup and a big change up here. Getting this guy to be their new wide receiver 1, it seems like, for this season. We'll see what happens with with Calvin Ridley's future in Atlanta once he comes back from his suspension. But this guy, I mean, he dominates. He dominates on the 50-50 ball. So while you can't get open, he can make the catch, and he can fight for extra yards after that. But, yeah, just not the ideal speed you like out of a wide receiver, not the ideal quickness. But we'll see what they can work with here. Arthur Smith works with his guys and gets them in the shape and really gets the best out of them. So he gets his big body guy in at wide receiver now in Drake London. So, again, Seattle Seahawks now on the clock. Get the picks in if you guys want to be entered into the giveaway. The selections will stop once the Seahawks pick is in. So get those picks in, and we'll see what potentially could be at stake here for the Seahawks. So the Seahawks, how they get to this point, going into this process, no number 1 overall pick with the Seahawks. Derek Stingley off the board. He dropped at 3, unfortunately, but that's what I mocked at 9 as well. So, good idea on that one. It's the same thing I thought of, but Derek Stingley off the board right now. Charles Cross, yeah, he's still there at offensive line. That's a good pick. I think Charles Cross, yeah, I have him on my board as a top prospect for them. They need some offensive line depth and some real starters at that tackle position. So that could really shore up that offensive tackle spot on the offensive line. Another Charles Cross here. I mean, no quarterbacks, guys. I mean, all aboard the Drew Lock train. I mean, I'm the leader of it. Drew Lock with the Seahawks, but I mean, they could go quarterback here at 9 or even try to sneak back into it like I had in my mock draft. Hint, hint later on. But John Schneider traded their 2021 and 2022 first-round picks for Jamal Adams until he made the trade with the Denver Broncos, trading Russell Wilson and getting the number 9 pick from the Denver Broncos. But the big thing here, Russell Wilson, during his time in Seattle, was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL since 2010. And why is that important? Because Russell Wilson was drafted in 2012. So that's a stat for you. So, yeah, these Charles Cross picks, we had 3 picks here for Charles Cross with this first-round selection by the Seattle Seahawks. So the clock is ticking on them. When the clock stops, we'll stop taking selections for them. But Charles Cross is the big pick on this first-round board here for the Seattle Seahawks. 7-10 last season, missing the playoffs. Their only real selection last year in the entire draft was Dwayne Eskridge, a guy who only played 10 games, 64 yards, and 1 touchdown, really the non-factor. And really that's the whole case for the entire rookie class last year. And they are in an interesting crossroads right now. I mean, do they go with Drew Lock as being their starter? Like, do they have the quarterback room is Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Do they go into that room with this season? I mean, or are they going to be on the lookout for a Baker Mayfield potentially if they don't go with a quarterback with this pick? So this one will be interesting to see what happens here. I mean, Malik Willis, could be a great quarterback option for them. I like Kenny Pickett. I like Matt Corral a lot, and also I like Desmond Ridder a lot as a fit here for the Seattle Seahawks at quarterback. Yeah, Trey Mead would be a great selection here at number 9 of the Seattle Seahawks. Let me tell you, a real gym rat guy that he is. So Seahawks, I don't see defense unless it's Jordan Davis. Wouldn't surprise me. Here, being just a surefire best player available, or do they go with a guy on the offensive line? So we're going to close it off. The pick is in. So closing off the bets and seeing what they go with. Is it going to be an offensive lineman? Yeah, there's a Trevor Penning option in there, but didn't quite get in time with what I have on my live feed. So number 9 here, Seattle Seahawks, what do they do? Do they go with a quarterback here, or do they free up that offensive line a little bit for whoever their quarterback could be in the future? Is it going to be a guy they try to sneak in the late first, maybe a second-round selection potentially for the Seattle Seahawks, or do they go with a Drew Lock, Baker Mayfield route at quarterback? So whatever the case may be, an interesting selection here to see what they go with. Trevor Penning will be an interesting option. One that could be a bit of a reach, but it'd be interesting to see. I love some reaches every now and then in the first round, guys you don't necessarily are expecting to see come off of the board. Trey Mead's a 7th round pick. Hey, I'm high on Trey Mead over here. He's pretty high up on my draft boards. Let's keep it down on the Trey Mead slander in the chat. So Seahawks 7-10, we talked about last season. Just average. Honestly, it's the best way to describe it, especially looking at some of their numbers here. 16th scoring offense, 12th scoring defense, 23rd passing offense back with Russell Wilson, 31st passing defense. So I think that, I mocked them with Derek Stingley Jr. I bet they are livid right now that there are no cornerbacks on the board with, real good value. Sauce Gardner off the board, Derek Stingley Jr. off the board. I bet they would have loved one of those two guys to come off the board with one of these selections at number 9 to free up and help out that passing game on that defense in that secondary. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm leaning offensive line. I think, that's, the right scenario. Yeah, so offensive line, I think, would be the pick here for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm kind of leaning with you guys, the majority of you that said Charles Cross. We'll see if that is the selection. If so, we'll get your names down, the guys that were able to get that in and get you in to the wheel and get things running. So things ramping up here in this first round. We're about to close out the top 10. But first up, we have the number 9 pick, Seattle Seahawks. Out comes the commissioner. Yeah, it seems like you guys are a little bit ahead, and yes, you are. Charles Cross out of Mississippi State, offensive tackle, off the board here now to the Seattle Seahawks. Cross his name off the list. That's right. So we'll pull it up here. We got, all right, so giveaway number 1, we have Keegan. We have, let's see, Adam, Will, and Michael coming in with our first giveaway. You 3 will be entered into the wheel. Congratulations. You got the pick correct. Charles Cross, number 9 out of Mississippi State, the 3rd tackle now off the board. Now all eyes on the next tackle. Who's it going to be? I think we're going to have to wait some time to see the next tackle off the board. But Charles Cross out of Mississippi State, 6'5", 310. A guy who has ideal size, length, and balance. Pass pro was pretty average, but overall absorbed, the power rushers, which I thought, what I talked about was a big thing. We talked about power rushers being a big thing in the NFL, being able to absorb some of those guys. That's one thing that Charles Cross did do really well. But overall, the big thing he did was in the second level, getting his agility and power up in that second level. I think we'll do a lot of things in the run game for the Seattle Seahawks. Pass protection, we'll see what happens there, who is going to be holding up. We'll see how Charles Cross holds up on that offensive line and pass pro, and who that quarterback is going to be that he is going to be protecting. But I mean, I like Charles Cross. I had him falling in the top 10 to 15. I think number 9, that's right on the edge of being a little bit of a high pick for him, for sure. But the Jets back up on the clock at number 10. They had a first overall selection of Sauce Gardner on offense. Now, on defense. Now they have a weird scenario here. No more offensive linemen, so they can't really sure up an insane group on the offensive front of what they could have had if they took a tackle. But at number 10, a wide receiver could be in the avenue. We already saw one come off the board in Drake London. Maybe a Garrett Wilson. Maybe, what I had mocked, being a Jamison Williams could come off the board here at 10 to the New York Jets. This would be interesting to see. A wide receiver, they're really lacking a true number 1 wide receiver in New York. But even, they were linked right here at number 10 to maybe even a Jermaine Johnson II out of Florida State on the edge. So maybe Robert Saleh makes his presence known and doubles up on the defense with his first first picks in the first round, top 2 picks in the top 10. 2 defensive selections here potentially for the New York Jets, or do they go with a wide receiver? Personally, obviously, I would go the wide receiver route. I really like Jamison Williams potentially being the guy here at wide receiver, but it wouldn't surprise me to see a shakeup with maybe even a Garrett Wilson as well. But they need a true wide receiver 1 in this offense. A true wide receiver 1 will be the big move to go with. Corey Davis won't be able to get it done. I really like Elijah Moore, the rookie they drafted last year in the second round, but he is not the guy to be a wide receiver 1 in an offense. So all eyes right now on a Garrett Wilson or a Jamison Williams being the guy that will become the next wide receiver 1 for this offense, and for rookie or now second-year quarterback Zach Wilson. But a guy they're high on, why not build around him? No more offensive linemen available. So now potentially go with a guy at wide receiver. So is it going to be Wilson or is it going to be Williams here that comes in for the New York Jets with this selection? So the pick is in. Let's see what happens here. And while we're talking about Elijah Moore in his rookie year, what he had, 11 games played, 538 yards. He had 5 touchdowns. He was pretty effective. But I just don't see it in him being a wide receiver 1. And there's some wide receiver 1s still, available in this class. Only one guy off the board right now, in Drake London, and he wasn't even my top guy. My top guy was Garrett Wilson on the board. But I do see, a potential reach, or not a reach, but a jump, I think would be the better terminology, but a jump of Jameson Williams, a guy who's tall, lean, explosive. Looks like he is well ahead on his recovery from his torn ACL. So we'll see what happens with this pick with the New York Jets. So the pick is in. Still no trades. We're waiting on the trades. We want to see some trades here in this first round potentially. So number 10 overall pick. We're rounding out the top 10 already. Crazy how fast this thing flies. But we're already, over an hour into it already. That's, pretty crazy as well. And we're just through 9 picks. So out comes the commissioner with the number 10 pick in the NFL draft. I'm leaning Jameson Williams. We got a guy in the chat, Trey, going with Garrett Wilson. And it looks like Trey's going to beat me to it. It looks like it's going to be Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. This guy is ultra competitive, a very polished route runner. He is my number 1 wide receiver on the board. No giveaway with this pick. I'll announce the next time we have a pick for our giveaway the next time. But yeah, Michael, you had the first one. You can still get in at a second name into the drawing. Yeah, Garrett Wilson here out of Ohio State, 6 foot, 188, rare run after the catch ability, very excellent. He did a lot of great things in Ohio State. I loved his game and his tape and what he was able to do for that team last season. And throughout his entire time at Ohio State, being able to go up with those guys. They have another first-round pick potential here in Chris Olave as well at wide receiver of that Ohio State offense that they had. But this guy, Garrett Wilson, he is the yak guy of the class. The yard after the catch. I talked about the run after the catch ability. That's what he is very great at. He is a very great route runner, very crisp at the top of his routes, creates a lot of separation. No surprise here to see the Jets go that way. I just thought they'd go with the more explosive option. In my opinion, if I'm Joe Douglas, I would have gone with a Jameson Williams. I think he's really the guy that takes the top of a defense really lets Zach Wilson, have that, big arm strength that he has, and lets that thing, just absolutely let it rip, and what he can do. But Garrett Wilson off the board here at 10, going in at that second pick. So that's it for the New York Jets. That is their first round of the NFL draft today, unless they try to sneak back into this thing. But the Jets at 4, they go with Sauce Gardner, come back around at 10 with Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. So a Big Ten guy off the board at 10. So how about that for you guys who are the puns in the chat? So now we have the New York Jets selecting Garrett Wilson at 10, just writing it down. And it looks like we are potentially going to have a trade at number 11. What a surprise. The Washington Commanders might be trading back in this one. I mean, that's what you guys are saying in the chat. We'll see if we can get a trade here. That would be... There it is. Yeah, a new trade. All right, so change up the board. The New Orleans Saints are now on the clock. So we'll pull it up here for you guys. Trade alert. Major trade alert here in this first round. The Saints moving up here in place of the Washington football team and now are on the clock. So here we go with this one. Still, hang on, give me a second. Here we go. Some technical difficulties here. Hang with me, folks. There we go. Pull it up here. The Saints now on the clock. They have traded with the Washington football team. So the Saints here now, Mickey Loomis, a guy at general manager, loves high IQ players, loves the toughness. Who is he moving up the board to get? He has his eye on someone for sure. We're going to look and see if we can get a little bit of info on this pick here. See what we can pull up on this one. So hang tight. We'll see if we can get some trade details of what happened here with this trade between. Here we go. We'll see what happens here between this trade with the Washington Commanders, the newly claimed Commanders. They're moving up, or moving down. Saints are moving up. So we'll see what we can do here. Pull it up here for you guys. Some trade terms. Here we go. Trade terms of this trade. And then we'll get into the details as well. So hang tight with me. See if we can get this pulled up really quick. And there we go. So trade summary. The Saints are getting the 11th pick in this year's draft, and the Commanders are getting pick 16, 98, and 120. So picks 16, 98, and 120 courtesy of Underdog NFL. So cross it out. No more Commanders. We're now rolling with the Saints, and pick 16 now belongs to the Washington Commanders. There it is. First trade here of the first round. So switch back over. Here we go. Keep it moving. Saints haven't traded down since 2007. Traded down or traded up. So we'll see what happens here. So Saints here with this first pick. What are they going to go with? I mean, I don't see quarterback in the cards, quite frankly, for the New Orleans Saints with this pick. I know a lot of people have put those two together, Saints and a potential quarterback. I like Jameson Williams a lot and think he has a lot of upside still to come with potentially the future for this team going forward. Honestly, I see wide receiver. I mean, we've had a run on wide receivers, two wide receivers now off the board. Are the Saints moving up to grab their guy with two off the board now? A little bit of a run happening at that position. Are they going to move up to try to secure potentially Jordan Davis? This one's interesting. I mean, Trevor Penning is the guy I had linked to them with one of their first selections. I had Chris Olave as well as I think their top guy they can go with. So we'll see. So New Orleans Saints, we'll talk about just what happened here last season, 9-8, but 5-2 with Jameis Winston. That's what I mean when I'm talking about what this team can do. It's very surprising to me what happens here with this selection. Coming up, here we go with the trade, moving up. Honestly, a big trade. I like this trade for the Saints and the Commanders. I mean, the Commanders getting a third-round pick out of it and a fourth-round pick out of it, and the Saints now have an opportunity to move up and get their guy. But the pick is in for them with the 11th pick now in the draft. We'll see what they go with. Again, I like Chris Olave, and I don't think they go up for a tackle. I don't think that's the move up you make here. I think a move up here will probably be a Chris Olave. Player I linked to him in the first round, a guy who was a big pickup. That could be a big addition as a number 2 to this offense with Michael Thomas. So Chris Olave, does he become a back-to-back guy out of Ohio State and at the position with Garrett Wilson off the board? This is honestly the only thing I can think of. I don't think with how the tackle board is shaked up right now, no tackles fell out of the top 10, so I don't think the Saints are going to try to move up to secure one of those guys. So I like them making a decision here. And going back to that, option you had, Saints haven't traded down since 2007. How about this one? Mickey Loomis has traded up in the draft more than any general manager currently in the NFL right now. So this one I'm not surprised about. Trading up at 11, the Saints always make sure they get their guy, and I think that guy is going to be Chris Olave. So the pick is in. We'll see what they go with once the commissioner comes out here. But the Saints offseason, they did lose head coach Sean Payton. Going now, I believe, to Fox was the news that came out this week. Going to Fox to be a lead analyst over there. Dennis Allen taking over now as the head coach in New Orleans. So out comes the commissioner with the pick for the Saints after trading up with the Washington Commanders. Let's see what the pick's going to be here for the New Orleans Saints. And here it comes, and it looks like, yep, we had it right. They are going to trade up and get the third wide receiver off the board, second in back-to-back picks. They're going to go with the guy out of Ohio State by the looks of it at wide receiver and Chris Olave. This is a good pickup. I mocked them getting Chris Olave with their second pick, but I'm not surprised with the trade up here. Trading up, getting their guy that they really wanted this offense, pairing him up now with Michael Thomas. So we'll pencil it in. Chris Olave with their pick here in the first round. First pick now for the New Orleans Saints. We'll see them come back up at pick 19 later on. Potentially do some fun with that pick as well. But Chris Olave, guy who's 6'1", 189. I wasn't very high on this guy. Here, we'll bring you back into it. This is a guy I wasn't necessarily high on personally going in to this year's draft. But Chris Olave potentially could be the guy that comes up here and makes a real change for this New Orleans Saints offense. And a big pickup here for Jameis Winston as well at wide receiver, now pairing with Michael Thomas. So the Saints going with Chris Olave. This guy has a lot. He's quick. This guy is the first real burner we've seen in the draft so far this season. It's honestly surprising to me that Jamison Williams still on the board. I mean, there's been, 3 wide receivers off the board so far, and Jameson Williams is still there. I really expected Williams to be one of those first 3 picks. But Michael Thomas did not play at all last season. He's coming back this year, and we'll see what the Saints do next time they come back up. But we have a big here draft pick, Chris Olave, going to the New Orleans Saints. I like this one a lot, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, keep the puns coming in the chat. As much as you guys love and hate them right now. But Chris Olave really feels a big need, really a huge slot complement on this offense with Michael Thomas. So I like it a lot. Good selection here by the New Orleans Saints. I mean, last year going with Peyton Turner, who played 5 games, now turning around and with their first pick of the draft this year go with Chris Olave. That's a big turnaround. I think Chris Olave has a lot better of an impact in year 1 than Peyton Turner did last year. So the Saints, big move up here, making a trade to secure their guy, and we'll see what happens with this next pick. So the next pick, what we have up next is the Minnesota Vikings. We'll see what happens here. I know the Vikings were in the market of potentially moving. They're not going to trade up at this point. Here they on the board. So we'll see what happens here for them for this next pick. So Saints, Chris Olave. Next up, Minnesota Vikings. We'll see if we have any shakeups or the Vikings go with the guy. I mean, Jermaine Johnson's still on the board, who is a player I mocked him having with this selection. So we'll see what kind of scenario we have up next here for the Minnesota Vikings. So I've got a little bit of a spoiler there. We will be having a trade. That's on me over here on Twitter. So we are having a trade with this pick. Yep, Mike beat me to it just as well. So we're going to have a trade. Here we go. Another trade alert right now. So we'll make the adjustments that are necessary. This is honestly a rare trade. An interdivisional trade just happened between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. So this one is a real bombshell of a trade to me. Two teams in my division, my favorite team's division is the Detroit Lions coming up here on the clock. Real quick, trying to figure this out, get back on track here with what we can get. So the Detroit Lions, almost got it, pulling it here. Detroit Lions now on the clock, and let's see if we can get back up. There we go. Bring us back. Detroit Lions back on the clock again. The pick is already in. I mean, yeah, they made a trade. They're going to come up and get the guy. We'll see who that guy is. Is it going to be a quarterback? I would love a Malik Willis right here. Malik Willis. Yeah, trade alert. Keep it going. But we'll also try to figure out here what the terms of this trade are. I mean, what a big trade here, moving up into this first round. Again, it looks like, yeah, here we go. See if we can pull it up. And boom. So here we go. Trade terms. Vikings have traded number 12 and 46 to the Detroit Lions. And there's the pick as well, spoiling it a little bit for us as well. So Lions for 32, 34, and 66 is what we get for playing with Twitter. But we're going to head and beat us to it. Excuse me on that one. Not Chris Olave. He is off the board. But pull it up real quick so you see the trade talk. Details on that one. And here we are. So, excuse me for the spoilers and transition. There we go. So, Jamison Williams, to the Detroit Lions at now number 12. A rare, like I said, interdivisional trade that occurred. The Lions get a guy at wide receiver. This one, honestly, is a surprise. I thought, a trade here would potentially be a quarterback of the future. But, I mean, do they honestly view Jared Goff to being that guy? I mean, this is honestly insane. Slide it back over here. This one's insane to me. Major trade here at number 12. Detroit Lions, they came up and they took Jameson Williams off the board. A big trade in the NFC North, and we have the pick, like we discussed, Jameson Williams. So my guy is finally off the board now with this pick. So we'll see what can transpire here with this next selection coming up in this first round. See if we can, here we go, pull this back over here. So now at 12, so Jameson Williams. I'm trying to get back on track. This is honestly just came out of nowhere and completely threw me off. So Jameson Williams, 6'2", 189, coming off that torn ACL, a real play for the future here, but a very fast and explosive guy at the position. Love him at wide receiver. Goff is not that guy. Well, I mean, they didn't go with somebody else here at number 12. So we'll see what can expire. What expires here and what can happen with this next one. So see exactly what's going to happen next. So Detroit official, gets Jameson Williams, an elite guy. After the catch, pursues angles with speed. and however did tear that ACL in the national championship game, which was unfortunate for him because he's a prospect I really love going into this year's class. So the trades are completely throwing us off guard here. We'll try to get back on track and get things under control with what's been happening here. But we'll see what exactly we can do with this one. So next up, we do have the Houston Texans at 13. Houston was very adamant about wanting to move here potentially around the board as well, and see if, what they can do. They said they're open for business at 3, but also we're more likely to make a move at 13. So we'll see what can happen. That's the info for the Eagles trade up. Will be an interesting one to consider. So Texans here, I had them getting Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State at 13. However, are they going to stay at 13? They already went with their first overall pick, Derek Stingley. Do they go back-to-back defense with this selection? This is going to be the interesting one, and it looks like we'll see what happens here. Yep, and there they are on the move, the Houston Texans on the move with the 13th selection. So back-to-back trades, 3 straight trades in this year's first round. So we'll switch it up, and we'll tell you who's on the clock next with this one. But the Detroit Lions were the last ones to make the pick. We'll try to get things up for you here of what's happening now. So the Eagles are now moving up in place of the Houston Texans with this pick. The Eagles moving up from 15, it looks like. Eagles now on the clock. So we'll pull you guys back into it, transition, and we will pull it up here. So the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock now with this next selection. So go ahead and throw this one out of the way for now. What are the Eagles going to do? First of 2 picks. Also, real quick, let's actually pull up what's happening here with this one. Major trade alert. Yeah, 3 straight trades. This is unreal. So go back to Twitter. And, yeah, here we go. Not spoil it this time. And see what we can get. So this one, again, coming in courtesy of Underdog NFL. The Eagles are getting the 13th pick. And, yep, there's the selection. Or not the selection, but the trade summary. So the Texans now getting 15, 124, 162, 166. So another trade, 3 straight trades. Eagles now on the clock here. We'll switch back to the main cam. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, what a wild situation that just transpired. I mean, I talked about wanting some trades, but I don't mean 3 straight trades to completely throw us out of the loop in this one. Unreal by all means. So the Eagles, let's try to tidy things up and get back on track. Eagles now still have 2 first-round picks. They have one at 13. They're able to keep the other one, which was a big deal by them. So still have 18 as well. So the Eagles here, what are they going to go with? Wide receivers now off the board. Maybe a Kyle Hamilton. Go with best player available. Why not? Potentially with this pick. Maybe even, let's see here. So Drake London off the board. I liked him a lot to the Eagles. George Karlaftis, one I mocked all 3 times to the Eagles. The guy, the edge rusher we had going in out of Purdue. George Karlaftis could be an option here. Devin Lloyd, if they want to go linebacker route. But Kyle Hamilton's a big one to keep an eye on here. Even Kenyon Green, if they want to go an offensive guard to really shore up the loss of Brandon Brooks in that offense and move Landon Dickerson to a new center. Jordan Davis could be an option here. They've been linked a lot to him as well as of late at defensive tackle. We see that coming in the chat. So last year, Devonta Smith, the first-round pick for the Eagles, they took a speed guy at wide receiver, had almost 1,000 yards, had 916 yards, had 5 touchdowns. Eagles went to the playoffs, 9-8 in a season, but lost in the wild card round, 31-15 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. Again, 15th pick is what they originally started with from the Miami Dolphins, but then they changed it up now, moved up the board to 13 with this next selection. So we'll see what happens here with this one. So we'll go ahead and get started figuring things out and looking into this some more while the coverage is in a break. So really what I'm looking for at 13 now here with the Philadelphia Eagles after this changeup. Jordan Davis, I think could really be in the cards here. I like a potential fit with, maybe Kyle Hamilton, who's still on the board. You guys are all over Jordan Davis. Might be a little behind on some things here. So Jordan Davis, an option. Kyle Hamilton, an option. This is an interesting selection. This is completely thrown me out of the loop with what's going to happen here. So the first round pick, the entire thing is just completely gone all out of sorts right now with this first round. So the Eagles, first of 2 picks. We'll just talk about some things they've lost. They brought back Fletcher Cox. Were able to reassign him at defensive tackle. So do they pair him up with another D tackle and Jordan Davis? Safety is a position they're lacking at after losing Rodney McLeod. I talked about the loss on the offensive line with Brandon Brooks at offensive guard on that offensive line. So we'll see what they go with here. A team that last year was the number 1 rushing offense, but the number 25 passing offense in the NFL. Pass rush, a huge concern at 31. Also struggled in the run game as well on defense. So we'll see what transpires here. Even a cornerback could be in the cards. Trey McDuffie's still on the boards, a cornerback that I liked a lot. He's still sitting here at 13 with the Eagles. So trading up and going with that decision here. We'll see what transpires. The broadcast currently in this delay. We might have to rely on Twitter. I don't want to go onto Twitter and make a decision here with what's going to happen here to see which avenue they go with. So we'll see what we can pull up with this 13th overall pick. Do they go with a freak? In my opinion, you're going to go with a freak athlete either way. Are you going to go with a freak athlete in Jordan Davis, or are you going to go with a freak athlete in Kyle Hamilton? I think it's the only 2 routes you have to consider here if you are the Philadelphia Eagles with this pick. 2 big needs you have on defense. I don't think in the cards right now is an offensive lineman. I think you still have another first-round pick at 18 to make that choice. So we'll see what they can come up with this pick. So we're going to try to get a little bit more organized and ready to go for this next pick and see what happens here. So Eagles pick coming up live. So it appears it has already happened while we're in this commercial break. So, yeah, we're going to go to the Twitter. I'm not waiting on this commercial break. I'm excited. They've already got it for us. And, yep, you guys had it all along. Jordan Davis, defensive tackle, Georgia, the behemoth, 6'6", 340 defensive tackle, comes off the board to the Philadelphia Eagles with their first pick in the NFL draft. We'll see them come back up again at 18. So pencil it in. Eagles, Jordan Davis out of Georgia. A lot of worry about Jordan Davis, what he was able to do in Georgia, a guy that wasn't a 3-down guy in Georgia, but they had a lot of freaks on that defensive line, so it makes sense. Hi in the chat. I see everybody in the chat. Keep things rolling. So Jordan Davis, defensive tackle. This guy is a monster. We're pulling up, the scouting report I have right here now on him. This guy is so athletic. For a guy who's 6'6", 340, being that athletic is unreal. And adding him with Fletcher Cox on the interior of that defensive line, I talked about the issues that they had in Philadelphia with the pass rush, with the run defense. Here it is. Great run stopper. This guy is an incredible run stopper and really fills that need that they had for the Philadelphia Eagles on that defense. So it looks like we'll see what happens here. But also, let's go ahead and get the next team on the clock behind us while we're talking about it. But Jordan Davis coming in here now at 13 to the Philadelphia Eagles, their first of 2 picks. This is a bird stub for sure. This guy collapses pockets single-handedly. At his best against the run, like I mentioned earlier, being an insane run stopper. It's hard to see someone destroy double teams, but the big fella destroys double teams. Yeah, don't play running backs against Philly next year. That's for sure. You're not playing against Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox on that defensive line. What an unreal duo they now have. This guy even makes plays downfield as a defensive tackle at 6'6", 340. This guy makes plays downfield that I saw in the film when I watched him. Needs the right scheme. He's in the right scheme now in Philadelphia. I love this pick. Love the fit and everything about it. So big pickup there by the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, we'll see them back. Summit told me to pick. Yeah, shout out Summit in there. Summit the dog had the pick. We talked about the fun picks of Bill Belichick and his dog. Will's dog, Summit, in the chat. Shout out Summit getting that pick right. Jordan Davis to the Philadelphia Eagles. But now, next up on the clock is the Baltimore Ravens. And hopefully no trades happen here and throw us out of whack again. Hopefully we get things round up and get ready to explain some of these teams some more. So the Baltimore Ravens here at 14 last year, 8-9, missed the playoffs. Unfortunately, not what they expected last season with quarterback Lamar Jackson. Missed some time a little bit in and out of the lineup. But 8-9, they're in a position here where they can make a really big decision. I like Jordan Davis as a mock, but still on the board is the guy I mocked to him at 14, and that is Kyle Hamilton. Eric DeCosta obviously values speed, size, and hard play, I said in my mock draft, in the first round, and simply takes the best player on the board. It's Kyle Hamilton. It has to be Kyle Hamilton at this pick. This one is one I would love to get right. Eric DeCosta does love trading back. I don't want that to be the case. No more trading back for a while now. I've had my fun. You guys threw me out of whack here with 3 straight trades. But this one has to be, it absolutely has to be Kyle Hamilton. Last year, the Ravens were 32 in pass defense, number 1 in running defense. They need a guy in that back end. They added Marcus Williams at safety in the offseason. Now add the best guy on the board in Kyle Hamilton. No team values secondary more than the Baltimore Ravens. Kyle Hamilton's still on the board. He is right up their alley in terms of athleticism at the position, and this is just perfect value for the position. The only reason Kyle Hamilton slid is because he is a safety, and it's weird, a weird positional value you have drafting safeties high in the first round with how contract situations work out with rookies in their first year on that first contract. So I want to see it here. Eric DeCosta, make me happy with this pick. Yeah, the streamiest cat in the corner. That's what we need. We got the Slaw Sports Show. Here we go. Up here in the corner is what we have. that would be nice, getting the streamiest cat in here. But 30-second passing defense. Get the guy who is the absolute, center fielder. That's the word. He is the center fielder of this year's draft. Kyle Hamilton is absolutely rare. He is just great instincts. I don't even want to look at any other prospect. They can go with an offensive tackle here. Shout out my friend Brad Clear. He always mocked Trevor Penning as being the guy that is, coming off the board at 14 to the Ravens. Mocked him a lot, getting an offensive tackle to shore up Lamar Jackson. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not looking at anything but Kyle Hamilton because it just makes sense, everybody. It makes sense with this pick. It has to be Kyle Hamilton. So they're taking a lot of time right now with this selection. Eric DeCosta coming in for the Baltimore Ravens. You got to take the best player available. You got to take the best player on the board at the position that makes sense. I could even see Trent McDuffie here maybe, potentially at corner. And just another guy who I think fits really well with that defensive scheme. And he's still on the board here at cornerback as well. But right now it has to be it has to be Kyle Hamilton with this pick. I don't see any other way you go with it. So we'll see what happens. They're still just taking their time here. So we're going to catch up, take a quick water break, keep things going in the chat. Stay lively in there. Appreciate the support, but we'll keep it in. The Baltimore's pick is in, so we'll take our sweet time. Let Roger Goodell get up off his lawn chair he has back behind that stage and come out here and make this selection. So we'll see what happens here with this next pick. I think I know what it's going to be. I have a strong inclination of what it's going to be. I had it from day one. So we'll see what transpires here with this Ravens pick. First time finishing last since 2007 in their division. And that's what happens. Lamar Jackson missing 4 games with that ankle injury. So some great work here by the graphics department at NFL Network. Shout out those guys getting things ready to go with this show. well, yeah, we got the good show over here, though. You guys in the chat know. So the wheel, we'll be spinning the wheel potentially right after it ends. Yeah, thanks for the cool water bottle. So spinning the wheel of fortune, we'll see if we can get it pulled up after the show and see who ends up getting the pick here for this next one. So we'll see what happens with this next selection at 14. Again, the pick is in. I think I have a strong idea of what it's going to be. I'm not looking at anything else except for the Baltimore Ravens to go with Kyle Hamilton here. It has to be the pick. He's available. He's on the board. And something has to happen here. So real quick, let's just talk about the offseason. I talked about Marcus Williams coming into Baltimore at safety. Now, I'm hoping that they pair him up with another safety and Kyle Hamilton, but also coming in right tackle Morgan Moses. They re-signed Calais Campbell. There's a thought that, questioning, wonder if he was going to be back. Michael Pierce, Patrick Ricard got re-signed. Will Hernandez also signed him an offensive guard. So they did have some talent on the offensive line to where it's not really a big need to go with a Trevor Penning here. But they lost Alejandro Villanueva, who retired, Deshaun Elliott, Sammy Watkins, the new member of the Green Bay Packers, Miles Boykin also lost at wide receiver, and Tavon Young at cornerback. And here is the selection like we said. Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. It had to be the pick. It just makes sense from a fit, makes sense from a scheme, and everything you would expect to see. Kyle Hamilton's pinning teams inside the tent. No, we don't see Kyle. Oh, yeah, Jake's still on the Matt Ariza train. Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals. We do have a trade. So a trade late here in this draft. We do have. So this, for things like this, we will go to the Twitter for. So thanks, Liam, for the heads up on that one. The Cardinals trading 23 to the. Eagles are trading 23 to the Ravens. Oh, so Ravens coming back up here into the first round. Ravens traded Marquise Goodwin, Hollywood Brown, to the Arizona Cardinals in the Arizona Cardinals trade. 20. Okay. Cardinals trading 23 for Marquise Brown. So now Marquise Brown on the Cardinals, the Ravens back up in the first round at 23, but we got some time to get there. So Kyle Hamilton, wrap up this real quick. Going 14, as expected, Kyle Hamilton to the Baltimore Ravens at 14. Next up, we'll see if we get things in order. There we go. Next up, we have the Houston Texans on the board here next. Let's see what they can come up with on this one. They traded back, going back to it with the Philadelphia Eagles. So the last pick, the Eagles moving up to take Jordan Davis. The Texans now back up at 15. We'll see what happens. Interesting. Interesting trade. A lot of speed for Kyler. Yeah, it is. That's what he's losing. And Christian Kirk as well. They got the speed right back at it. After losing Christian Kirk in free agency, they were able to turn around and get the speed back here in Marquise Hollywood Brown as well. So we'll see if we can pull this back up here. Yeah, Houston Texans at 15 now instead of 13. Back up on the board here again. So Houston Texans, who I had mocked the first time, was Jermaine Johnson. He's still on the board. They already got their cornerback in Derek Stingley Jr. I don't see quarterback in the cards here, like quarterback on offense. I don't see that in the cards. Jordan Davis off the board, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, all players I projected as top prospects for the Houston Texans with this pick. But the pick is in. I'm leaning Jermaine Johnson here. But we'll see what happens with this pick by the Houston Texans at 15. This one will be an interesting one for sure to see what they can come up with here with this pick. So see what happens here. So get caught back up and see exactly what transpired with this selection. So 15, Houston Texans on the board. We'll see which avenue they go with. Do we see a quarterback pick before 20? I don't think so. I think 20 is the big quarterback spot with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we'll see what happens here. The big thing also, bold prediction, no first-round quarterbacks. That would be bold for sure. But also what you got to consider with the Houston Texans here. As much as I like Jermaine Johnson being the pick here, they did go defense in that first pick they had in the first round, that top 10 at 3 with Derek Stingley, instead of taking an offensive lineman. They elected not to go with an offensive lineman with that first pick and ended up going with a defense. So maybe they go with that avenue here, potentially after losing out or passing up on an offensive lineman, and instead going with a cornerback in Derek Stingley. So maybe an avenue here could potentially being an offensive lineman. And, yep, the pick is in, and the commissioner said it, and it is the case. Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M is the pick to the Houston Texans. This is a pick I like. Big signing here, big draft pick, whatever you want to call it. So Kenyon Green, yeah, they're out. Oh, man, I almost had that one. I mean, the more I thought about it, the more I thought it couldn't have been Jermaine Johnson. So they still get the offensive lineman that they wanted and still got their guy in Derek Stingley Jr. at 3. So we'll pull it up, see if we can get some talk here on Kenyon Green. This is a guy that played all 5 positions at Texas A&M. 6'4", 325, played all 5 positions up front, played 4 of the 5 positions this past season. Played 4 of the 5 positions. He's at his best at guard, in my opinion, but he does have multi-positional versatility, which if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know I love in my offensive lineman. Big, powerful guy, nimble feet, very firm anchor against power rushers, which, again, is the big thing in this National Football League. All these guys on the offensive lineman really have a big, grasp on being a firm anchor against offensive linemen or defensive linemen with a strong power rush. So another one here in Kenyon Green. This is a good one. Honestly, I said that he was one of the most ideal prospects you want to have in this year's draft. He is a very safe pick and a good choice here, trading back and being able to grab him and some extra picks in the process. This is turning out to be a pretty decent draft by the Houston Texans. I like this a lot. Derek Stingley at 3, some consider a reach, but it's Lovie Smith's guy. He got his guy for his defense. Now you came back up at 13. Came back up at 13. Were able to trade back with the Eagles to get a couple selections in the, later in this year's draft, and then get Kenyon Green in the process. So far, great draft. I mean, I like this by the Houston Texans, what they're able to do. This is a franchise that is a long way away from turning things around, but so far they're doing it the right way with their picks right now. So next up, we'll see what's going to transpire. Next up, we got to do a little bit of some switching here. So hang tight with me. We're going to go to a quick break screen, and then we'll switch it back over. So hang on. We're still here. I'm just going to switch some things up with some trades that occurred. Let's see where. There we go. Get them back into it. And right back into it. So Washington Commanders up on the clock next. We'll see what they can do. I was all thrown out of whack back here with what I had going on here. So the Washington Commanders on the clock. Let's see if we can get things back in organized fashion here for the Washington Commanders pick while the broadcast is in a commercial break. And we'll even talk to some chat, talk to you guys a little bit. So let's do that real quick. So Washington Commanders, we got things set up and organized here, right back on the right track. So Washington Commanders, not the football team, Washington Commanders here next up on the board. See what they go with. So traded back from 11 with the Saints. So yeah, the Saints are supposed to be the next ones up. At 16 is where we're at. So Washington Commanders here, so they passed up some potential wide receiver options that end up getting off the board, allowed the Saints to go up and get Chris Olave. Even though they did meet a lot with the Ohio State wide receivers, they ended up passing up on Chris Olave after Garrett Wilson went right before him. So they traded back here now to 16. I like the fit for the Washington Commanders of Kenyon Green early on in this process, being a guy that can really take over from Brandon Sheriff. But now he is also off the board, so Washington's in an interesting scenario here. Last year, the Washington Commanders made a little bit of a shocking trade that developed late in the process and going with Jamin Davis at linebacker, a guy who played 16 games for him, had a sack, 2 quarterback hits, a pass deflection. But he played 16 games, 76 tackles. He was a tackle machine and was always on a play from start to finish at linebacker. So, I mean, honestly, insane to me when I look at the top prospects I had for the Washington Commanders. They are all off the board. I wasn't expecting a trade back by Washington. So this is uncharted territory right now with this selection to see what they go with. The pick is in here, pulling back up on the broadcast right now. So we'll see what happens. But the Washington Commanders, the newly named team in the NFL, formerly the Washington football team. We know all the organizational issues they have going on in Washington. But still coming in here with this first pick. They got new quarterback Carson Wentz in town now. Also some big re-signings. J.D. McKissick, they were able to steal him back from the Buffalo Bills. Was a big re-addition. As long as you're not, a Antonio Gibson fantasy stock owner, it was a big part of that offense was getting J.D. McKissick back. We know that Carson Wentz can utilize some running backs out of the backfield as well in the offense. So maybe another offensive addition here could be in the works. I mean, Terry McLaurin has a lot of scenarios happening. I mean, my first 3 picks that I could have thought of for the Washington Commanders were all wide receivers, but all 3 of them are off the board. But, I mean, they could go another route here and try to go with another wide receiver with this selection. I don't know what it's going to be, but there's a lot of issues with Terry McLaurin right now with his contract situation going into, I believe, his final year of his contract. Is he going to be the guy that they try to keep around long-term with this offense? So this is going to be an interesting one to see what happens going forward. So Washington Commanders, a wide receiver makes sense here. I don't think they reach on Zion Johnson, which would be another option they could have at offensive guard with this pick. But a wide receiver, I mean, you got still a little too early on. Maybe even a potential move for a Treylon Burks. But here we go. Commanders selection at 16. We'll take it to the commissioner and see what we're going to get. Wow. All right, it's a wide receiver and not one we expected. Jahan Dotson out of Penn State, a guy I don't even believe I had in my first-round mock. So, like I said, uncharted territory for sure. So to switch it back, Jahan Dotson, the pick here for the Washington football team, a guy who was, I mean, we're going to have to flip the page. He was my 8th wide receiver 8 on my board. I was not that high on Jahan Dotson, but obviously they are. He's a great number 2 option, which is what they need in this offense. But a guy who is still a little bit undersized but has great quickness. I mean, you see the deep speed and amazing hands that he's possessing on the highlights that NFL Network is showing. A great guy who's good after the catch as well, accelerates in and out of his breaks. Just not the avenue I would have gone with. But as a number 2 wide receiver, if he, I mean, I don't know, a number 2 wide receiver, he could work out here potentially with this team being a number 2 guy with Terry McLaurin. So this will be interesting to see how it plays out. You have another piece to this offense for Carson Wentz to work with. Old Carl now in Washington. But overall, I want to see how is his play strength going to hold up. I mean, 5'11", 184. He's a very small guy at the position. I want to see how that play strength is going to hold up. I mean, by any means, he's not a weak guy. But some of these, linebackers in the NFL in the middle of the field, it's going to be interesting to see. But we'll switch this over. The next pick is in with the L.A. Chargers. So Jahan Dotson, surprising pick there to the Washington Commanders. Yeah, we got that down. So next up, L.A. Chargers on the clock at 17. The guy I had mocked to him and Jordan Davis off the board. What do they go with here? Also off the board, Jameson Williams off the board, Chris Olave off the board, players I projected to happen here. So we'll see. Oh, do we have a potential? All right, yeah, we'll get back to this trade. The pick is in for the L.A. Chargers, and yep, there it is. We're going to try to get it pulled up really quickly, but this is a pick I like a lot for the Chargers actually in the future of their franchise that they're working with. So here we go, pulling it up here. The LA Chargers with their first pick at 17 in the first round are going to roll with Zion Johnson out of Boston College, the BC guy coming in, another offensive lineman off the board. And the second guy, I talked about him, maybe being a fit for the Washington Commanders here. I think the Commanders had a miss. I think they missed a shot here at getting Zion Johnson. I mean, if he's going to go this high, they had a real opportunity to get him at 16 and did not do so. So 17 now, LA Chargers getting a guy in Zion Johnson. We'll see if we can pull up on him. Ideal for him to play guard, so we'll see if he's playing guard here for him right now. We have to check Twitter. So Zion Johnson, good pickup. Another guy on the board for Justin Herbert to help him up front. All right, we'll check Twitter. What's happening here? Oh, wow. The Eagles made a trade, and they are getting A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans. Will Lindsay, our resident Titans fan in the chat, you're asking what the Eagles are going to do, or the Titans are going to do with their pick. I don't think you wanted this one. The Titans now have the 18th pick, and the Eagles have A.J. Brown. Wow, what a turnaround trade. Out of all the receivers having issues right now with their team, the last one I expected to be traded was going to be A.J. Brown. So we'll pull this up here, this situation that has transpired. Wow, absolutely insane. So he was working out with Jalen Hurts just last week, and now teammates. So pull it up here. Here it is from @MySportsUpdate. Eagles are trading the 18th overall selection and a third-round pick to the Titans for wide receiver A.J. Brown. So the Tennessee Titans now have 2 first-round picks at 18 and 26. So we got to change some things up here. We'll pull up some trade alert real quick here for us. Get some turnaround here. This is unreal. What a trade this was. I mean, this was crazy. A.J. Brown on the move is now a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. I wanted the Eagles to get a big body contested catch wide receiver that absolutely dynamically changes their offense. And did they just get one? In A.J. Brown. What an absolute turnaround. So here we go. Transition back to here. There we go. The Tennessee Titans, the pick is in. They're on the clock right now at 18. Will, my heart goes out to you. Losing out on A.J. Brown. But now here you're in the 2 first-round picks. We'll see what happens. He is not well in the chat right now. A.J. Brown, what a turnaround trade. Oh, my goodness. Not one I was expecting for sure. So now the Titans on the clock here. What do? I mean, obviously now have a need at wide receiver. But, I mean, do they go quarterback here? They have 2 first-round picks now. So, I mean, we're going to have to go through the deck here to get to the Tennessee Titans. Here we are. So, Tennessee Titans last year, the number 1 seed in the AFC after having a 12-5 record, losing in the first round to the Cincinnati Bengals, 19-16. A bad performance in that game by Ryan Tannehill, which is why I mocked them of getting a quarterback at 26 in Desmond Ridder. Do they go with a move? Are they the team to go with the first quarterback off the board here? But honestly, how do you replace A.J. Brown in this offense? This completely changes everything right now. They already lost Julio Jones in free agency. He's still out there as a free agent. But now losing A.J. Brown, a guy who's the heart and soul of this team, stripped from the Tennessee Titans by the Philadelphia Eagles, I would think that somehow you would have to find a way to replace him immediately. So the wide receiver option, I mean, whatever the Washington Commanders just did, getting Jahan Dotson, but there is a guy on the board who's still a big body out there in Treylon Burks. As a Packers fan, I would hate to see him go right now, but it makes a lot of sense at wide receiver, seeing Treylon Burks potentially landing here. But also another option, looking at the board for the Tennessee Titans, they got holes on their offensive line, which, I mean, you can't fill that anymore. Kenyon Green, Zion Johnson off the board. Really, they needed help on the interior of their offensive line after losing Roger Saffold and also Corey Leveland and David Quisenberry, So losing guys all over that offensive line, but mostly in that, middle of their offensive line. But with Zion Johnson and also Kenyon Green off the board here, you got to go a different direction with this selection. So I think wide receivers in the cards. I think Treylon Burks is a big fit for them. But the Tennessee Titans, what a turnaround. jumping out here on the board, I mean, the only thing going for you is you do eventually are going to wait on the return of Robert Woods, who you made a trade for a couple months back. We're able to add him to the wide receiver room, but no A.J. Brown anymore on this offense. No more Julio Jones, unless they will elect to try to bring him back. This is crazy, but real quick, we'll look at the draft last year, the Titans. They went heavy really early in the secondary with Caleb Farley, a guy that had some injury concerns coming into the draft, but they believed in him, took him in the first round, played 3 games last season, and Elijah Bolden, a guy I liked a lot, played 16 games, 4 pass deflections, and a pick. So that's the way they went this year, or last year. So the pick is in. Here is Roger Goodell. We'll see what happens to this Titans pick. You got to replace A.J. Brown, you'd have to think. And that's going to be the case. Treylon Burks out of Arkansas, the big body guy coming in now to replace A.J. Brown. You got contract issues with A.J. Brown. Go ahead and add in the next guy to replace him. Get him on a rookie deal in Treylon Burks. So try to get a little bit reorganized back over. Organization is key here in this draft, everybody, as you can tell. So Treylon Burks, pull up the tape here on this guy. Unfortunate to see him go, but big physical wide receiver. Great run after the catch. You can see back on our YouTube channel, I said he is potentially going to be the next Deebo Samuel with A.J. Brown's size. It's his comp was A.J. Brown's size in Deebo Samuel's body, or Deebo Samuel in A.J. Brown's body. I guess it would make the most sense, but a big physical guy, 6'3", 225, the player you want to have the ball in his hands. Yeah, all right, Will's cheering up a little bit, already a Burks stand. Will, this guy is great. I mean, this guy is insane. I like his game. Not a lot of people are high on him, but I am one of them. He wasn't asked to do a lot in Arkansas, but with their offense, he was able to get the ball in his hands and do a lot of great things for them. Yeah, NFL comparison, Deebo Samuel, but the one thing, Deebo Samuel is not 6'3", 225. This guy is a big physical wideout with all of the traits you love out of Deebo Samuel. So I like this. Now you have Robert Woods. You got Bobby Trees now teaming up with Treylon Burks in this defense, or excuse me, this offense in Tennessee. What a big turnaround for them, losing A.J. Brown and instead turning back the time and, honestly resetting that contract in your wide receiver position, getting Treylon Burks down on this rookie deal. You avoided the shot of having to pay A.J. Brown. This might turn out to be a big thing that shakes up this franchise for the Tennessee Titans. I mean, he's a very, considerably very similar to A.J. Brown, but the thing is you're not paying him $20 to $25 million a year on that contract. You just reset your contract market on him. This could prove out to be a huge win, in my opinion, for the Tennessee Titans with the selection of Treylon Burks. So next up, we are going to go with the next team on the board, and we are going to go back with the New Orleans Saints, the second pick of their first round. They took Chris Olave at 11. We'll see what they do here now, coming back in at 19 with this next pick, and we'll see what we can do with that one. So what a turnaround. Talk about getting thrown out of the loop right there. Thanks for the chat for telling me to check Twitter on that one. A.J. Brown going in and immediately getting replaced. And now we have some news to discuss as well, if we can pull it up just quickly while the Saints are on the clock. We now have some contract terms to discuss with their newly signed wide receiver. Switch it over, courtesy of Underdog Football yet again. A.J. Brown has now signed a 4-year, $100 million extension with the Philadelphia Eagles. $57 million guaranteed. Like I said, a $25 million per year contract. $57 million guaranteed. The Tennessee Titans just aren't paying that. So they reset their market now on their wide receiver, and now got a guy that is a big guy on the outside that immediately replaces A.J. Brown. A very similar play style. Very similar frame, everything you want, and you don't have to pay him. You have now 5 years to work with out of Treylon Burks, who is younger and can potentially be just as good. So the pick is in for the New Orleans Saints. We'll see what we go with here with this next one. So the Saints, I had they got Chris Olave. I had nailed that one right on the head. They traded up to make sure it happens. I said in the mock draft that they would have to trade up to make sure it happens. That's exactly what they did with this next pick now. At 19 will be the interesting one to keep an eye on here. I think they go with an offensive tackle. There's still one on the board, the best guy available. On the offensive line is a tackle I had mocked to him in the first round, and that is going to be Trevor Penning out of UNI. So I think that would be a big selection here if they can make sure that happens. So we'll see what the case is, but this would be big turnaround for me. I missed out on a couple picks here as of late, so if I can get a turnaround here with the Saints, we'll see what happens here. The Saints could be my lucky team. So Saints back up again. I talked about they do need to find a replacement for one of their best players of their franchise leaving this offseason. Teron Armstead, their offensive tackle, left and signed a big money deal with the Miami Dolphins in free agency. So they got to replace that guy immediately. That's a big hole you're left on your offensive line. And I really like the fit of Trevor Penning. I think he immediately can come in and step in on day one, be that guy for Jameson Williams on that offensive line, and help him out for sure. So the 30-second passing offense gets Jameson Williams back at quarterback, gets Chris Olave at wide receiver, and in my opinion now, hopefully we'll go with a tackle. But we'll see what the case may be here for the New Orleans Saints. It's been quite the little fiasco going on here now with this first round. It's been interesting to see what happens here. So keep it up. You guys are absolutely killing it in the chat, loving it. You guys keep up the good work, keeping these moving along. So see what it is. Here comes the commissioner with the 19th pick in the NFL draft. The New Orleans Saints will select. And there it is. 2 for 2 on the Saints. Trevor Penning out of UNI. What a great pickup here. Immediately replacing Teron Armstead. I love this pick by the Saints. They're off to a good start on their first round of what they've done, which pretty much wraps up their first round. Got it nailed right on the head. Chris Olave trending up, making sure they acquired him, and now getting Trevor Penning as well. 6'7", 321. This guy was pretty great in pass protection in the games I watched. Run game was, power washing defenders down the line of scrimmage. It's going to be a great thing for Alvin Kamara in this offense going forward. He's outstanding, like I said, both in the run and the passing game. Combination of length, strength, and awareness, I said, was very intriguing watching him as a prospect going into it. So big moves by the Saints. Immediately replacing Teron Armstead and locking in a number 2 wide receiver to this offense for Jameis Winston, and honestly surviving what I thought was the worst decision. Here we go. What I thought was the worst decision that they could have done in this first round was selecting a quarterback. They just now committed fully and definitely to Jameis Winston. Yeah, there you go. Eat the dubs. Eat the dubs in New Orleans, down there in Baton Rouge, and down in Louisiana. NOLA now has their guy at quarterback in Jameis Winston. They got their 2 guys at wide receiver in Michael Thomas and Chris Olave. They got Alvin Kamara, who's going to come back just as strong next season, and now figured up that hole in that offensive line with Trevor Penning in replace of Teron Armstead. So I love this pick. Great moves by the Saints. I mean, this is a team last year, 9-8 missed playoffs without a quarterback. I mean, they were rolling around with Trevor Siemian and Ian Book for a game, and the Swiss Army knife as well with that offense last year. So what they were able to do now going into this year, they have a shot at playoffs. I mean, a 9-8 team last year with all these uncertainties that they had going into the season. This one is going to be an interesting one to see how it really makes sense here. Deacon, you're right with the next pick. Pittsburgh Steelers, what did they go with here? You're saying quarterback. I agree with you. I had them trading up and getting a quarterback in my mock draft. I think that might be the case. So let me write down this past pick in Trevor Penning, offensive tackle out of UNI. What a draft by the Saints. Saints and Texans right now are absolutely killing it in this draft with their picks. So next up, Pittsburgh Steelers. 9-7-1 last year. They made the playoffs. Unfortunately, lost in Big Ben Roethlisberger's last game to the Kansas City Chiefs, losing there 42-21. They didn't put up much of a fight. Had a lot of garbage time points they put up in that game. So now they're entering into a new era Without Ben Roethlisberger on deck at quarterback, they did sign Mitchell Trubisky in the offseason, but I see him more as being a stopgap guy potentially. I had the mock of my pick, my pick for them was moving up to 6 and getting the guy in state in Kenny Pickett. I think that might be a big way to go here with this selection in this one. So just the ideal pro-ready quarterback. Already has the Pittsburgh culture in him, which is the big thing there with that team. So now see what they do here. I mean, another route they could potentially go with a Bernard Raymond maybe. I don't know if he squeaks into the first round or not, but he's an option to go with on the offensive line if they want to elect to go that route. But something has to change in Pittsburgh. So I'll pull up real quick just the draft notes to consider. Kevin Colbert, he is relying on a lot of scouts' opinions and the head coach opinion from Mike Tomlin. This pick right here in the first round will be the last first-round pick in the Kevin Colbert era as general manager. When asked about the quarterback class, he said there's a good quality available, not as many as have been there in recent years. While Mike Tomlin said he's examined all the quarterbacks this year in a very similar way he's examined all the running backs in last year's class. So last year's class, remember they took Najee Harris in the first round out of Alabama, played 17 games, every single game, did not come off the field, had 1,200 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, nearly 500 receiving yards with 3 more through the air. What an impact he had, and it was no question from start to finish was it Najee Harris to be the running back last season. So when Mike Tomlin says he is examining all the quarterbacks in a similar way to examining all the running backs, that really has me convinced it's going to be Kenny Pickett here with this pick. I mean, last year Najee Harris was always the pick from day one. In my opinion, Tomlin can say he was looking at all the running backs. We all knew. We all knew he was looking at Najee Harris, just like I know right now and have mocked every single time to the Steelers. I know it's going to be Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett is the ideal player here for the Pittsburgh Steelers to come into this city, come in and take over for this team, and see what happens with Mitch Trubisky. I love the guy, but a pro-ready guy to step in day one is what Kenny Pickett is. 6'3", 220, athleticism, accuracy off the charts for this guy. So we'll see what happens with the Steelers. So while we wait on Roger Goodell, we're going to take another quick water break, cover up the Hydro Flask. We don't want any fake, false sponsorships going on here on the stream. So yeah, here we go. And real quick, while we're waiting on the commissioner as well after the water break, if you haven't already, click the like button and subscribe as well to the channel. Really help support the channel, help support me as well. But I appreciate you guys being here. Let's keep things rolling along. It's been a great draft so far. We're entering now into the 20s of the first round, which is the area we will see my 2 selections of the Green Bay Packers. So we'll see what happens here. But first, we got to get through the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are now making their first selection of the draft. So we'll see what the move is here. The commissioner, of course, taking his sweet time, as always. Again, no boos in the chat for the commissioner, but you can boo him at home out loud. Don't want any misinterpretation of the boos here on the channel. So we'll see what the Steelers do here at 20. Again, heavily considering Kenny Pickett, in my opinion. I think he is the move. Malik Willis might be another wild card option to consider, but I think Pickett is the guy that you take here, and we'll see what happens. Oh, we got Franco Harris, 4-time Super Bowl champion, making the pick here. It looks like for the Steelers instead of the Commissioners. That's why we got a little bit of a holdup happening here with this one, but a big turnaround of what we have seen transpire. And there it is. The pick is in, as expected. Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. He is the guy going in now to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They found their quarterback. Kenny Pickett, the ideal pro-ready quarterback. This guy has a quick release in his passes, has the ability to avoid defenders inside the pocket, escape, and make plays, which are all 3 things that Big Ben could not do. So that's what you're adding to your offense now with Kenny Pickett. He doesn't have the elite velocity that maybe Ben Roethlisberger had in his game, but he is just as accurate, has great anticipation and accuracy, very poised in the pocket, and like I said, comfortable throwing on the move. He has quick eyes, gets through his reads really quick. The coaches rave about him in Pittsburgh. The ACC Player of the Year, led them to a great season, winning the ACC conference this past season, now coming off the board here at 20 to the Steelers. Great selection, and now we'll see what happens with Mitchell Trubisky going forward, and if he goes straight to that backup role, or maybe a little bit of competition. I mean, I'm fine with some competition happening here with the Steelers going forward. So next up, we will be having the New England Patriots on the board. So we do have Patriots Patriots fans in the chat, excited for this next pick, potentially being the New England Patriots at 20. But let's get caught up here with it. Kenny Pickett off the board at 20 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, their next quarterback of the future. Anticipation, playmaking, accuracy, all things that we love to see out of Kenny Pickett. I love this guy watching his tape, a true leader. But I do have a quarterback above him that we haven't seen yet, just in my personal rankings that I have. But 6'3", 220, like I said, good size, everything you would like to see out of him. And we will be having a trade. Oh, so the Patriots fans, hold tight. It is not yet your time. We are going to be having a trade here, and we will figure out what the terms are. So let's go ahead and pull it up. You guys know already. Trade alert on the way. So we'll see what the case is going to be with the New England Patriots sliding back. Bill Belichick, man, does he love to slide back. And he is going to be moving back with the Kansas City Chiefs, by the looks of it, moving up to 21 in replace of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So all the talk leading up to this week was that the Chiefs will be the team that are going to be making a move. So the Chiefs now on the clock making a trade here, and we'll see if we can get the terms and conditions. No, not the conditions, just the terms. The terms of the trade. Pull it up here real quick for us. All right. Courtesy, again, of Underdog NFL. Shout out to those guys. Trade is in, and here's the trade summary. The Chiefs now getting the 21st pick in the draft in replace of the New England Patriots. The Patriots trading the 21 pick for 29, 94, and 121. So now at 29, we will replace the Chiefs with the Patriots. So another shocker here, another switch-up trade. So thank you again to Underdog Fantasy. Check them out for all your fantasy needs. Yeah, trade alert. So we'll keep things going here. So now up on the clock. Oh, they got a nice little red background going for us back there before. So the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's get right back on track here. The Chiefs now on the board at 21, 12-5 season last year, AFC West champs. As expected, loss in the AFC Championship game, however, to the Cincinnati Bengals 27-24. The Bengals, of course, advancing into the Super Bowl and knocking the Chiefs out from making it another consecutive trip. It's going to be interesting. Brett Veach rarely drafts quarterbacks, so I don't think corner is in the cards here. He likes to switch up his prospects' positions. Never traded back is all the notes I have on him, but now trading up. So this one would be an interesting pick. Some situations I had for him. Potentially, I don't know. Maybe another wide receiver could go off the board here. Honestly, the Kansas City Chiefs have the worst cornerback room. Let's just make that note. They have the worst cornerback room in the NFL. In the entire league, their cornerback room is absolutely atrocious. So while I say that Brett Veach rarely drafts cornerbacks, why not? Why not make it happen here? Yeah, let's pull up the board, pull up the position group, and see what we have still available. So the only ones off the board, I think, are still the top guys. Yeah, the top two are the only one. Trent McDuffie is sitting right there. I mean, I had, back at 29 when their original pick, my top prospects for them were Kiari Lam, Roger McCreary maybe, Kyler Gordon potentially. But you're trading up here. How did I forget about Trent McDuffie? A guy who I had mocked going at 12 to the Minnesota Vikings, sitting on the board here at 20. It has to be. It has to be Trent McDuffie right now. coming off the board for the Kansas City Chiefs. Here comes the commissioner. We'll see what the case may be. But there's just no – how did I forget him? You always forget somebody. Trent McDuffie was the guy who slid out of all of them. Out of what's – it has to – all right, here comes the commissioner. We'll see what the case is going to be for him and try to get it pulled up here with the commissioner. Yep, and there it is. As I said, he is coming off the board. The Washington cornerback, Trent McDuffie, a guy that I had a lot of fun talking about yesterday on the show. We had the scouting reports brought up courtesy of Lance Zierlein yesterday, and the sources tell us on him so that he is the best Washington corner to come out of their program that their coach has recruited, and they have recruited some great corners that turned into great NFL corners in the National Football League. Trent McDuffie, well, he is slightly undersized at 5'11", 195. This guy is quick. Tremendous quickness, awareness, and toughness are the big things that I loved about him. So Trent McDuffie coming off the board here, he immediately is the best corner on the Chiefs team. I mean, I said that they have the worst Chiefs cornerback roster in the league. Trent McDuffie steps in day one and is that guy now for this team on defense. So Trent McDuffie, very fluid mover, carries a lot of vertical routes with ease, which is going to be very big in that division. Running with potentially Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy, those type of guys. Devontae Adams potentially, he's going to be covering him now in that division. What a big pickup by the Kansas City Chiefs. He's rarely out of position. He's super aggressive in the run game. Make sure he gets in, puts his head on the football and makes a tackle. He even blitzes a lot too. Gets after the quarterback, and also productive on punt and kickoff. This is a safe pick, and I don't know how he fell. I love Trent McDuffie, and I had him going in the near top 10, and falling here into the 20s at 21 is unreal. Great value by the Chiefs and a great first selection by them. We'll see them come back up at 30 again. But next up, the Green Bay Packers. Pick is in. I missed out an opportunity there. I wanted to have potentially a giveaway here happen with the Green Bay Packers, but too late now. The pick is in for the Packers. We'll see what they do here. This one, it's time. Time for the live reaction. The Packers not trading up from 22, not trading back from 22. What's going to happen here for my Green Bay Packers? Well, real quick, we'll talk about them. While we're waiting, why not bring up my Green Bay Packers and talk about them a little bit? So see if we can get right back on track with our organization here. And this one, there we are. So Green Bay Packers, all right, let's go. Brian Gutekunst, he has a type for his players. High RAS scores. 3 out of the 5 players he drafted in the first round had a RAS score of 9.38 or higher in the first round. Brian Gutekunst on the draft said that there's temptations on both sides to move around a little bit. That's not going to be the case here with this pick. 1 wide receiver in the first round since 2005, and only 2 skill players in the first round since 2005 have been Rodgers and Love. But the guy loves to pair rookies with vets. Wide receiver seems like it's going to be off the board here unless it's going to be George Pickens out of Georgia. So maybe a potential George Karlaftis who's still on the board here out of Purdue. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what this pick is. Hopefully, don't break my heart again with this selection. Maybe go a D tackle route. But the Packers last year, number 1 seed in the NFC, lost in the first round of their first game, second round of the playoffs to the 49ers. 13-10. The Niners, horrid on offense, only had 3 points of offense, but still managed to come away with the dub in that one. But 13-4 record for the Packers. Now without Devontae Adams going into this season, so that's why wide receiver is a real interesting one for the Packers if that's the route they go with here with this pick. No Devontae Adams. Also lost Zadarius Smith on the edge. Billy Turner at offensive tackle. A lot of interesting scenarios the Packers can go with this first pick. I love Treylon Burks and loved him being a fit, but he came off the board back to the Titans at 18 after that switch-up trade. But here's the Packers pick. Their first of 2 in the first round. Let's see what we're getting here from my Green Bay Packers. A little bit. All right, we're going to pull it up here. The pick is in. Commissioner making the announcement. And yeah. All right. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It is Walker time officially in Green Bay. They're going to go with Quay Walker out of Georgia, Georgia Bulldog. Last year, first-round pick, Georgia Bulldog Eric Stokes played 16 games, was a great pickup in the draft by them out of left field that I wasn't expecting but turned out to be great. Honestly, I have high hopes for Quay Walker. I think Brian Gutekunst, as much as I bash him with his picks, he usually does get it right more often than not. So we'll pull it up here. Quay Walker, not the top guy I had on my board at the position, but he's enormous. Enormous off-ball linebacker with a nice blend of speed and physicality. 6'4", 240 at the position. They're pairing him up now with last year's defensive all-pro selection, Devondre Campbell, that they were able to re-sign to a big deal that I loved having him come in. So this guy, he helps out the run game. The Green Bay Packers rush defense was 11th in the league last year, but has some issues with it. So honestly, I'm happy with it. This guy plays sideline to sideline, a violent run defender, all the things I had on my tape. So I'm happy with that selection. Go defense, make a strength even stronger. We still need a wide receiver, but we have another pick to make sure that happens. So Quay Walker to the Green Bay Packers, a pick that I'm honestly pretty happy about. So we'll see what happens with the next pick. So let me pencil this one in. Next up, we should have the Ravens after the trade with the Arizona Cardinals, for Hollywood Brown. But Quay Walker here, and we'll see what happens. Big rip. They got to go wide receiver next time for sure. They got to go wide receiver with the next pick. Quay Walker, I like. I was really hoping they'd get an off-ball linebacker. I was hoping, my last mock draft 2.0, I had them getting Nakobe Dean out of Georgia, but instead they go the other Georgia Bulldog in Quay Walker. So I think he's just as great. It gives another sideline to sideline linebacker to pair with Devondre Campbell. So I'm really excited about the Green Bay Packers defense next year. You're returning Jair Alexander off the edge. You still have some potential in the second round to add on to that, but you already have two great guys in Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary as well. Kenny Clark at D tackle. Now two strong linebackers. The secondary, you got Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage. Like I said, Jair coming back. You got Russell Douglas re-signed, and last year's first-round pick Eric Stokes. That's a formidable defense that the Green Bay Packers are now going to have, and we'll see what happens next. So, all right, it's time again for another trade in the first round. Trade alert here. The Ravens are not going to be selecting. Instead, it will now go to the Buffalo Bills. So hang with us real quick. Try to get reorganized with yet another trade. The Bills are trading up. They're going to make a move. We'll see what happens here with them. So the Cardinals. No, we're going to need the... Alrighty, here we go. Buffalo Bills time at the next pick in the draft. Pull it up and switch us back over. And real quick, while we're at it, before we get to this Bills scenario of what route they can go in with this pick, let's see, of course, the terms. Back again, courtesy of Underdog NFL. Shout out to those guys as well. So the Bills, trade summary, Bills get 23, Ravens get 25 and 130. So the Ravens love trading back here and collecting some picks in the process. Still not making the selection in the first round. Bills are moving up. We'll see what route they go with here. Now in this one, my mock draft, I had them going with Kyler Gordon, a cornerback out of Washington. We just saw one go out of Washington, and Trent McDuffie. I think cornerback has to be in the cards here for the Buffalo Bills. They are infatuated, very infatuated actually, with Breece Hall at running back. But I don't know if they're going to make a trade up for a running back here. That's not really in the cards of what we would normally see. We'll see if we can get caught up here. Brandon Beane, he usually drafts the best player available guy, fills all of his holes in free agency, and then fills in the roster later in the draft. But running back is a big need for them. But cornerback, I really like to see what would happen here. They really need a corner at the position. Some options are Andrew Booth, Kiari Lam could be a big pickup here even. But I had mocked Kyler Gordon out of Washington. One of these three guys, I think you add another defender to that defense. The number one passing defense last season was the Buffalo Bills. I think you just keep adding on to that. When Tre'Davious White went down last season, it really hurt the Bills in the playoffs, especially that game against the Kansas City Chiefs, losing 42-36. Now with some new rules in place in overtime, maybe that goes the opposite way next time. But we'll see what happens here with the Bills with this next pick. I think it has to be corner. I'm going to be surprised if a running back goes one in this year's draft. It's not something I think would happen, but we've seen crazier things already. So who's to say that's not what happens here? So a trade alert happened. Ravens moving back, Bills moving up. See what they're going to go with here. Again, I think it's going to be a corner. And three names to keep an eye on are Kyler Lam, Kyler Gordon, and Kyler Gordon and Andrew Booth. Yeah, Kyler Lam, Kyler Gordon, Andrew Booth. Three names I'm keeping an eye on if I am the Buffalo Bills in this one. See what happens here. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes with this Bills selection. Got the Bills war room up right now. You have to pair up a guy to go along with Tre'Davious White. You just have to. You need another guy on that defense. The AFC now has insane wide receivers in it. Some great passers now with Kenny Pickett joined the mix in Pittsburgh. You got Russell Wilson joining the mix. Derek Carr getting a weapon in Devontae Adams. The Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs even without Tyreek Hill. The Miami Dolphins now with Tyreek Hill. There's a lot of speed and a lot of passing options with great quarterbacks in this AFC conference. So I think the Bills, if they want to compete and be the Super Bowl contender they're expected to be next season, they need to add another cornerback to the mix. They lost Levi Wallace in the offseason, which is just another blow to the depth of that position. So we'll see what happens here. I like the Bills a lot next season. I think that they're going to be a very fun team to watch. Buffalo running back, we'll see. I don't think that's the case, but Breece Hall could be the option here. But the pick is in. We'll see what the commissioner goes with and gives us for the Buffalo Bills at 23. And there you have it. Kyler Lam out of Florida. So they do go the corner route, not the route I would have gone. I would much rather preferred Kyler Gordon, a more aggressive type corner. But still, Kyler Lam's a great pick. 6'2", 196. Great height, great weight, great speed, press coverage. Rerouting opponents the same way we talked about before with the cornerback earlier. Runaway routes, stayed in the hip pocket the whole time. He had some issues when changing direction and working back downhill, so comebacks were a big issue for him, which is a big thing that Devontae Adams ran a lot of. So if they run into the Raiders at some point, potentially early on in the playoffs, that's going to be something to consider if Kyler Lam's placed up against him. But ideally, Trey White's going to be on the number ones. Kyler Lam has all the traits of being a great number two. I don't know why I'm talking about him potentially guarding number one receivers, but a number two, really a big thing here. We're going to do another giveaway. Or another addition to the giveaway with this Cowboys pick. Get your Cowboys picks in now. They're on the clock. When the pick's in, we're not going to allow any more selections. So the Cowboys, get the picks in now for who you think is up next for the Dallas Cowboys. But Kyler Lam, I thought he was a pretty good prospect watching him. Had great eyes. Really good job reading and anticipating. Always put himself in a good position, which is exactly what you would want out of your number two corner. So good pick up there by the Buffalo Bills, securing things up. So next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys. There it is, Dallas Cowboys. Up next on the clock, we'll see what they go with here. So we'll quickly catch back up. Kyler Lam. So the Cowboys pick. If you want to get some picks in for a potential giveaway addition, we're going to do it right now at 24. Still time. The pick is not yet in, so if you want to get your pick in, go ahead and do so now. All right, and we're going to try to get right back up to speed here with the Dallas Cowboys, and here we are. So Dallas Cowboys, 12-5 last season, NFC East champs. Lost in the NFC wildcard game to the 49ers, 23-17. 49ers going up all the way to the NFC Championship game. But the Cowboys last year drafted Micah Parsons at linebacker. Honestly, I'm surprised the Cowboys are still here. They were the ones I expected to really trade up in this year's draft, but they didn't make a move. Sitting here now with this pick, what are they going to do? Honestly, they could double up and go linebacker again. Devin Lloyd's still on the board out of Utah. It could be a pick here. Really pushes Micah Parsons more into an edge rusher role, which honestly I think fits more to his strengths. No offensive linemen's on the board really that I would want to consider here, unless you consider wanting to make a first-round reach on Bernard Raymond. But I personally wouldn't go that route. I know there's a lot of connections with Treylon Burks, but obviously he is off the board to the Tennessee Titans. So this one is an interesting pick. I mean, they lost some big names in the offseason, mainly being Lael Collins, and had to try to find a way to fill that gap, back up on their offensive line. They lost Randy Gregory on the defensive end spot. They lost also Taco Charlton at defensive end as well. So that's why I really want to lean linebacker. They did re-sign Leighton Vander Esch, but I don't know. I mean, the big name for the Cowboys was Amari Cooper. Losing Amari Cooper is a big deal for that offense, but I don't think there's any wide receivers I would want to go with here if I'm the Cowboys. So we'll see what you guys are thinking. Johnson, Hill, Daxton Hill maybe. Matt Ariza, Javik. Could be Matt Ariza here to the Dallas Cowboys. Get your punter in. So we'll see what the Cowboys do here. Still on the clock. So if you still want to throw in some selections, throw them in now. You'll be entered into the giveaway potentially on the wheel going forward. We'll see what the case is going to be. Cowboys taking a lot of time. I mean, I don't think Jerry Jones really thought the board would shake out the way it did right now for what he was expecting. So interesting scenario here in place going forward with what the Cowboys can do with this pick. So we'll see what the case is going to be here. So traded Amari Cooper to the Browns in exchange for a 5th-round pick. Honestly, a steal by the Browns. Cowboys without a top wide receiver now, unless they go the route with CeeDee Lamb being their new number 1 guy for this team. Oh, Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson, I would like that. He's still on the board too. He also fell. Guy out of Florida State, an edge rusher. Could be in the cards here to replace Randy Gregory and really push. All right, so picks are in. No more additions. So Will had another pick here. Got put in. Will, the Skinner, Deacon, and Javik. The 3 people that put picks in for this giveaway. We'll see what happens. Javik, I'm rooting for Matt Ariza, hoping that is going to be the case here with this pick. So we'll see what happens here with the Dallas Cowboys. I honestly don't see any tackles on the board right now that I would want to grab that shores up that offensive line after losing Lael Collins. I don't see any wide receivers I would want with this pick that shores up losing Amari Cooper as well. So this is going to be an interesting selection for the Dallas Cowboys. Jermaine Johnson, Will, I think you might be onto something there. A guy I had mocked very highly. I had him at 13 on my mock draft, going to the Houston Texans. He's still on the board. That moves Micah Parsons back at running back. So another, or back at linebacker. Micah Parsons back at linebacker, excuse me. So we'll see what the situation here is. Waiting on the commissioner, as always, to come out and make the selection for the Dallas Cowboys. And see what the situation may be. So Dallas Cowboys last year, the number 1 scoring offense in the National Football League, number 1 total offense, number 2 passing offense, losing Amari Cooper. That's going to change up some things going into this year. Number 9 rushing offense, even though a lot of people wanted Ezekiel Elliott to get back on track, me especially being an owner of Zeke in fantasy. But defense, I thought was a big situation. 20th in passing, 16th in rushing, 19th in total. Thought maybe they can make some additions here. And instead, they're going to go with the offense. The pick is in for the Dallas Cowboys, and this one is a surprising one, but it fills the hole. And it's Tyler Smith out of Tulsa coming in here now. He is going to be the pick for the Dallas Cowboys, and here we are. All right, Tyler Smith, guy 6'5", 332, has a great build, good length, big hands. Watching some highlights on him real quick. The play's over when he gets his hand on you. This guy can be a mauler and really throw some guys into the dirt if he wants to. Good footwork. I think he's raw in the run game, quite honestly. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott in that run game and how they get him back on track. But yeah, he has the traits and power you would like in pass pro, but just in the run game, he's as raw as you can get in this entire class. 29.2 23.9 PFF run on Pro Football Focus. I thought, honestly, from what I watched, I think that's favorable. I don't know what I don't know. We'll see. I think that he has a lot of growing to do in the run game specifically, but in the passing game, we talked about wanting to keep that passing offense intact. Their biggest loss is La'el Collins, so no one gets the selection here to be added to the wheel here. Yeah, Jay tried to throw in Tyler Smith there last minute. Didn't quite get it in time before the pick was in. So either way, see what the case may be. But next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Pull it up behind us. Next up on the clock. So Tyler Smith lands to the Dallas Cowboys. They get their guy to replace La'el Collins up front. Big pickup and a big hole filled by them. So we're going to see if we can get back on track here. Organize the notes. See if we can get back up to the next pick in the draft. There we are. So next up, the Baltimore Ravens. On the clock again. Made a big trade, trading Marquise Hollywood Brown to the Arizona Cardinals to get in this situation, then traded back with the Buffalo Bills. Here they are again. They traded back, took Kyle Hamilton back at 14, which I really love the fit in the pick there. And see what happens here for the Ravens with their second pick. It's the same situation they were in last year. Last year they went with Rashad Bateman with their first pick and then made a trade trading Orlando Brown to the Chiefs and got a second first-round pick out of it, being able to select Odafe Owe at defensive end. So this year already landed a big pick in Kyle Hamilton and now have an opportunity here to land another pick in the back end of this first round to see what they do after moving up and then moving back all over the board was the Baltimore Ravens. So on the clock here for their second pick and see what can happen here. And what they can do with it. So the Baltimore Ravens, we talked about the addition that Kyle Hamilton will bring to this defense, and also what can happen here with this next pick. I still think cornerback could be in the cards. Here with this one, Kyler Gordon's still a guy I like. Andrew Booth's still available as well on the board. You gotta fix the speed situation now with Hollywood Brown. Now your number one receiver, I guess, is Rashad Bateman in this offense after losing Hollywood. But another selection I like could be Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson was another one that many people linked here for the Baltimore Ravens, getting an edge rusher to pair up with Odafe Owe. More size, speed, and hard play at the position, which obviously we talked about earlier, Eric DeCosta loving. So it's interesting to see what happened here. But so far, Eric DeCosta is holding up his end of the bargain. Size, speed, hard play, best player available in Kyle Hamilton. And then I had the quote, we trade back as much as possible in any given round, more picks, more hits. He was able to do that. Trading back here with the Buffalo Bills, letting the Bills come up to 23. They slide back now to 25. So it'll be interesting to see what avenue they go with it here. I'm leaning Devin Lloyd at linebacker or Jermaine Johnson. So we'll see what that case may be here with this pick. Here, second of 2 first-round picks from the Baltimore Ravens, which I wasn't expecting coming into this, but they were able to come back in and make it happen. Eric DeCosta's got the phones ringing right now. So now it's time for him to pick up the phone and make his selection, but they're taking their time to try to get things worked out. So we're going to take a water break with them. Cornerback, linebacker, I thought was still a big needs by the Baltimore Ravens, but wouldn't surprise me to see him take the best player on the board again and go with the Jermaine Johnson. So Devin Lloyd or Jermaine are the two I'm going for right now for the Baltimore Ravens. All right, how are you guys holding up there in the chat? It's been quite a run. We're going into hour number 3 of the show, it looks like. So it's honestly crazy. Coming in at 8 o'clock my time. I assume I have a lot of East Coast people, Eastern Standard Time people in the chat, and also Mike in Mountain Standard Time as well. Michael, I know you're in there back in the home state as well. So got a little bit of some diversity in the chat today, all around the United States. So exciting to see that. So the Ravens pick is in. We'll see what they go with here with this one. So glad you guys are continuing to enjoy the coverage and keeping things rolling along. So we'll see what happens here with the Ravens going forward in this one. Maybe why not make a surprise? I mean, they can make a surprise here. Yeah, maybe a surprise. I mean, I talked about my good friend Brad Clear always mocking an offensive lineman, potentially. Trevor Penning I had on my list when they still had their first pick. Let's see, back up at 14 when they took Kyle Hamilton. But, I don't think there's any good offensive linemen on the board now. Tyler Smith getting off really knocks off all the good tackles on the board. So you look at the offensive line class, not really too many options that you want to consider, I would think. I mean, the best interior offensive linemen at guard, at least, are off the board. And Zion Johnson and Kenyon Green. So this will be an interesting pick here to see what Eric DeCosta goes with this second pick for the Ravens. But again, let's take our sweet time. Why not? Commissioner loves it. Got to get off the lawn chair back there for this next pick. Having a lot of fun, though, guys. Keep things moving along, keep the energy up. Maybe we need another trade or two to get us back in the action. But we do have another Packers pick coming up here in the next few picks. Another Titans pick coming up next. So, Will, I know you're in the chat still. See what your Titans do for the next selection that they have. So here we go. Let's keep it going. Ravens on the clock. The pick is in, and here comes the commissioner to the podium. And the selection is in. They're going to go with the big boy and the center. So I said there's no guards on the board. There's no tackles on the board. I didn't think of the center on the board. Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa. A guy I did not think was going to slide into the first round once I got into the final go of it in my first round. So I'm kicking myself for missing that one. Just being, a first-round guy I expected to see going here. But Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa, 6'3", 290. Another guy who is a good addition. He's easily the best center in this year's draft. Super athletic, super great intangibles and awareness. I think the big thing about him was the size concern, I think was the big thing. But, yeah, compared to Corey Linsley, an all-pro center from the Green Bay Packers, now on the L.A. Chargers, Tyler Linderbaum, very patient and effective against twists and blitzers. Rare occasions where he put himself in a bad situation. In the run game, he plays with quickness, leverage, and physicality, which is going to work great in Baltimore. It's going to fit right into their scheme of what they run offensively. Short arms. Short arms is the big thing that really pushed him down this board. But he pulled, a great pulling center as well in the run game. We're seeing some highlights here as well. The athleticism on the screen game as well, which Rashad Bateman runs a lot of in that offense. And, what he was very good at in college was in the screen game, going back to his time at Minnesota. So I think this will work out. Tyler Linderbaum, while I didn't expect him to be a first-round pick, he was here right here at center and was able to make a big scheme fit to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm kicking myself for not even thinking about this one. I mean, a wrestler too. This guy is very athletic, great feet, great leverage, and will do a lot for this offense for the Baltimore Ravens. So far, I mean, I love these two picks. While I didn't expect this one, it makes a lot of sense. Tyler Linderbaum fits a lot of boxes that the Baltimore Ravens needed up front in their offensive line. So it looks like, oh, yes, it is. I said I needed some energy. Here we go. Trade alert time. Back for another trade. We're going to see what happens. The Tennessee Titans were supposed to be next up on the clock. Will's Tennessee Titans. Instead, that's not going to be the case. They will not be picking with the next selection. Instead, we're going to have a trade. The New York Jets are now on the clock, making a trade with the Tennessee Titans. We're going to try to pull it up here for this one. Get around to it. Here we are. New York Jets. Transition back on the clock here. So real quick, what's going to go ahead and play that trade? Watch out. Pull up the terms and not conditions, just the terms on this one. The Jets with the pick here. Courtesy, again, of Underdog NFL. Trade summary. Jets are getting 26 and 101, so no more Titans pick at 26. The Titans instead will get 35 in the second round, 69. Yep, and 163. So now next up, the Jets back up again. I mean, the Jets now can come out of this draft by the looks of it with 3 first-round picks. They went with Sauce Gardner at 4, Garrett Wilson at 10, and it's Jermaine Johnson. They've been linked to Jermaine Johnson all process long. There was a thought that they would have to go with Jermaine Johnson potentially with the number 4 overall pick. He's here. He is on the board at 26. Let me get down Tyler Linderbaum real quick on my board. Yeah, it has to be Jermaine Johnson. This is the guy they've been mocked to this entire time with the number 4 overall selection. If he's on the board at 26, that's incredible. So the Jets back up on the board. They need an edge. I've talked about it early with the first 2 picks they had in the top 10. They need someone to go alongside Carl Lawson. Do they go with another defender here? You would have to think so. Why not already go ahead and, let's go Jermaine in the chat. It has to be Jermaine Johnson right here. So let's flip it and go ahead and get it rolling. So, the pick's already in. They know what it's going to be, considering he's still on the board here. I'm surprised that, the Jets are going to come back in and get him. I'm surprised they didn't already go and do that sooner than now. But Jermaine Johnson, the slide ins here. I don't know how he went, this low, considering how high he was expected to go, being a top 5 projection, potentially in, some places where you look at. So sitting on the board here at 26 is incredible. So the Jets with this pick, we'll see what the case is going to be for them. So, we'll keep things moving along here. And keep things moving up. So here comes the commissioner, Roger Goodell, with this pick. It's got to be. We're not even going to talk about the needs of the Jets. They need the guy that's on the board, so we're going to go ahead and switch over to it. Unless I get surprised here and they come out of left field on me. The Jets are going to get their guy right here at 26. Yep, and they are, in fact, going to do so. Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State is going to be the pick here for the New York Jets off the edge. Now adding in Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson. What a haul the Jets have now put together in this first round. They got the let's go ahead and give it for the Florida Seminole, FSU. Jermaine Johnson, this guy 6'5", 262. Got the speed, length, quickness, all you want in him in the run game. Shed blockers away, got the edge consistently, not occasionally, consistently. Consistently got around that edge. Coaches and the scouts at the Senior Bowl absolutely love this guy. No question that Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh had to be all over this guy and what he can do. Great, tremendous quick get off the line of scrimmage. Has a great stride, gains a lot of ground on that defensive line. So I like this pick for the New York Jets. What a haul. 3 picks that are all hits for the New York Jets. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson to completely re-galvanize this team going forward and to the future of their franchise. Not even next season. We're talking about the future of what's to come for this team. Jets eating dubs all night. Yes, indeed they are. Great picks by the Jets. I guess got the Braves. Braves, Seminoles. We'll get some tomahawk chops here. What other coverage? And what other draft coverage are you gonna find besides the guys that were behind the scenes, behind the set, in Vegas doing the tomahawk chop for Jermaine Johnson? What other draft show, more specifically, is the host doing a tomahawk chop on air? That's the content you're coming for here on the Saw Sports Show. So Jermaine Johnson going in at number 26. We'll go ahead and put it in. Jermaine Johnson going to the Jets at 26. Great 3 pickups by the Jets so far in this year's class. So next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it looks like, on the clock next. Actually, hold it. We got it again. Trade alert time. Another trade. My goodness. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will not be picking. What are we going to go with here? And it's the team that was the first one on the board coming back up the second time in the first round. The Jacksonville Jaguars just made a trade. Pull it up here. Try to get things in line. And boom. Transition back. The Jaguars now on the clock. So we'll see if we can flip back over to them. What else do they need? They need a linebacker. Oh, there's a linebacker on the board here. They can consider. They were in talks of getting Quay Walker with the top pick in the second round on day 2 tomorrow night. A lot of people really liked Quay Walker being a fit there to Jacksonville. But how about the guy I had my number 1 on my board is Devin Lloyd out of Utah, still here on the board at 27. So we'll get things figured out here. And then now let's get the terms of the trade for you guys, courtesy, again, of Underdog Football. Terms of the trade, the Jaguars are getting pick 27 in exchange for, the first pick of the second round, 33, 106, and 180. So we'll hear the Bucs make their first selection to kick off things tomorrow night. But as for now, the Jaguars back up on the board at 27, and the pick is in. So what are the Jaguars going to do here? I think wide receiver could be in the cards. They were linked to a lot of wide receivers in this year's draft. Potentially maybe a Sky Moore could be in the mix here at wide receiver. But I think linebacker is the route you got to go in with this selection. I think with Devin Lloyd on the board, it just makes too much sense. I thought wide receiver was in the linebacker was in the cards early in the second round for them. But at this point in the draft, with the top guys still on the board at 27, you got to take them. So I'm sticking true with it. Let's go Devin Lloyd. I think is going to be the pick here out of Utah to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's going to be a big pickup for them if that's what it turns out to be. But we'll see what happens. It's the draft. Expect the unexpected time and time again. So we're going to see what we can do here with this one. So the Jaguars, next up here on the board, try to get things figured out with their scenario going into their second pick now in this first round. What a draft it has been, ladies and gentlemen. I'm having a lot of fun with this one. So like I said, Trent Balkey, he favors his defensive guys in the first round. Does he go with one here? Back at it again for his second pick. Yep, whoop, whoop. Trade alert here in the chat. So we'll see what happens. Is it going to be another defensive player? It makes sense. They lost Myles Jack in the offseason, signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They need a linebacker. They have a big hole there. I don't know what else they would go with in this scenario, unless they make a reach at a wide receiver, but I do not think that is ideal. In an ideal scenario to go in here, trading back into the first. If they're trading back in, it has to be with a guy that's falling. And in my opinion, that's going to be Devin Lloyd. So we're in another break right now in the coverage. So shout out to the water breaks with the draft coverage breaks. But anyways, we'll keep things going along and continue to see what happens here. In this one. Oh man, I'm having a lot of fun. Lots of fun. We're now in hour 3 of this draft show. Thank you all for sticking with me. Again, make sure to hit like and subscribe on the channel. Support us all the best that you can. Keep tuning in also to the rest of the show. We have one more spot, one more draft pick for a potential giveaway. If you can guess the right prospect before the pick is in, you will be entered into the wheel for a drawing. You will get a $10 gift card of your choice, wherever you like to go, or even, if it's one of my, one of the guys, one of my boys that's in the chat, maybe I can take you out, and get dinner or something. But I'll figure something out with the wheel. But we'll try to put that together. We'll also consuming water. Stay hydrated. Stay hydrated. So we'll see what we can come up with. While we're waiting, let's go ahead and get the giveaway wheel started. We can do that live on the show and see what can happen here. So still, coming out of the break here with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still on the clock. You can see it here behind us. The pick is now in. Out comes the commissioner after the break. Like I said, I think I know what the pick's going to be. And, in the chat, yes, you can get multiple entries. So you will be able to get your name in there twice. So one more pick to do so. Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock, on the board, at the podium. And they are going to select Devin Lloyd out of Utah. Yep, it just made sense. It's a big need they had on that defense, and you've traded back into the first round to get a player who is falling. And that's exactly what Devin Lloyd was doing. My number one linebacker on the board. While my Green Bay Packers had a great sideline-to-sideline guy, I do have Devin Lloyd being the better prospect at the position. 6'3", 235, tall, rangy, has great versatility and production. A lot of things that you would love. This guy can run and mirror tight ends in the passing game. He's instinctive in zone coverage, makes a lot of plays on the football. And, just great ball skills. He's a very effective blitzer, which I think he's going to be very utilized in that defensive scheme for the Jacksonville Jaguars, blitzing in that middle of the field with what he can do. With Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen on the edge, there's going to be a lot of blitzes packages going Jacksonville's way on that defense next season. This guy absolutely wreaks havoc in the backfield. Great against the run, plays very downhill. He's not the sideline-to-sideline coverage guy that you would expect, but this guy is a true middle linebacker that this defense is missing after losing out on Miles Jack. After losing him in the offseason to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they needed casual Doug Peterson got the dub here. Well, it's not going to be his guy to call shots for, but it's still a good pickup. Trent Balkey got a defensive guy here now. Actually, two defensive guys. So like I said, this guy loves his defensive players in the first round. Now got two of them now in the first round. So Devin Lloyd out of Utah, a true middle linebacker who's going to be a great guy in coverage and some tight ends in the middle of the field, and also a great guy blitzing as well, shooting some gaps in the middle and great in the run game. Good pickup. Fits exactly what they need. Fred Warner. I think with what Fred Warner can do in coverage, being in the middle, not necessarily a sideline-to-sideline guy, but, just being a huge downfield threat. That's what Devin Lloyd is. Gets downfield and gets his nose to the football time and time again on every single play. It seems like an all-American selection last year with the AP pick. So Jaguars, good pickup there. And we are now on to the next pick, which is going to be my Green Bay Packers, yet again bearing any type of trade, which wouldn't surprise me. And Brian Gutekunst might have got the phones moving, so we'll see what the cards are in store here for the Green Bay Packers. So for this pick, it's the Packers. Hey, Malik Willis to the Packers. I mean, Javik, hopefully you're not on Twitter getting that one. So the Green Bay Packers at 28, their second pick of the first round. I talked about their first selection in Quay Walker. I think a potential George Pickens could be in the cards here for this pick. Let me get the right one on deck. Here we go for the Packers pick. So I think George Pickens could have a real opportunity here. If you want to go the wide receiver route for the Packers, if you want to go the defensive tackle route, the Packers have a good defense going for them, but if they really want to shore up their defense, they could go with a D tackle. I'm ill-advised to a double defense selection for the Packers here, but it would be very Packers-like. So I want to try not to. The pick is in. So let's get it here behind us. The Packers on the clock, making the next selection. A D tackle I think could be in the cards here. I would want a George Pickens or a Christian Watson with this pick, but I could see a Logan Hall. I could see maybe a Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia. Maybe he could be an option here. But Lewis Cine, if we go a safety route, go into a third straight Georgia Bulldog in the first round. Oh my gosh, I would absolutely love a Lewis Cine to add to that defense. But I don't know. He's not really a fit for the, what they have with Darnell Savage right now. I wanted to move him back into a robber role. So I'm hoping hoping for a wide receiver, but if I'm picking here, I'm going D tackle. And I would go with one of Logan Hall or Devontae Wyatt if I were Brian Gutekunst with this pick for the Packers. I mean, stir up that defense. I mean, if you add a defensive tackle here, that defense is going to be unreal next season in Green Bay, and it's going to be hard to see any team really start to compete with that. So losing Devontae Adams, that's a lot of pressure you're putting on that offense now in the Green Bay Packers, and you take a lot of pressure off of it by shoring up a defense. You know, you added Quay Walker to be another sideline-to-sideline guy with Devondre Campbell in the middle, but you really need some help on that defensive line interior still. You lost out to Zadarius Smith, who they moved around on the edge, on the inside. So maybe a D tackle in the cards here. But yeah, haven't selected a wide receiver in the first round since 2002. That was Javon Walker. Haven't selected a skill player in the first round since 2005, unless you count, drafted 2 skill players in the first round since 2005, that being Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. So I would love a wide receiver right here, but at the same time, I could see a move potentially take place at D tackle as well. I would love a surprise at safety. But we'll see what happens. Here comes the commissioner to make his pick with Walter Payton, Man of the Year. Andrew Whitworth. Walter Payton, Man of the Year. Andrew Whitworth here to make the Packers selection. So we'll see what the cards are for this one. Come on, give me a wide receiver. Get Rodgers help. Get Rodgers help. Come on. You got to do it, right? Has to be. You got to get him some help. And, yeah, so Commissioner Goodell taking his sweet time, as always. I'm sure really praising Andrew Whitworth if he's the one that came out with him. Yeah. Andrew Whitworth. Thank you, Whitworth. Thank you, Big Whit. Super Bowl champ, Big Whit. Walter Payton, Man of the Year. Heck of a guy. Class act that you would love. So, yeah. We're going to take back the negativity on Goodell taking a long time because Andrew Whitworth, what a guy. Yeah, all the praise deserved to him. Thank you, Andrew. So we'll take some time. They're stressing me out a little bit with this Packers pick, making me wait a little bit. 2 first-round selections with the Packers, Quay Walker with the first. Waiting to see what they do here with the second. I'm hoping wide receiver. I'm not expecting wide receiver. I can't. It's the Packers we're talking about here. So we'll see what happens. This one, the Packers pick, the first one, 22, came from the Raiders, along with a second-round pick as a part of the Devontae Adams trade. But the Packers will be picking here for the second time, which is honestly surprising for me from Brian Gutekunst. Brian Gutekunst traded up in 3 of 5 first rounds since taking over as the GM for the Green Bay Packers. Always wanting to get his guy, even if it's a reach. Not afraid to double dip and pair a rookie with a veteran. That's why I would expect to see him pair up potentially a D tackle with Kenny Clark. But we'll see what happens. I'm hoping a wide receiver. It's definitely a need for them that they would have to go with. So we'll see what happens here. And here we go. Commissioner back on the podium. Hopefully the pick is finally ready. All right. Let's see, what do we got? All right, the streak continues. They're going to go with the D tackle, Devontae Wyatt. Oh, another, we talk about a type, and you talk about Brian Gutekunst having a type. How about the Georgia Bulldogs? Devontae Wyatt, another Bulldog off the board at D tackle. As much as I wanted a wide receiver, I like it. Keep building the strength. Strength. Keep building it with the defense. How do you take pressure off your offense? Make a formidable defense that just relentlessly does not let offenses do anything on the board. So Devontae Wyatt, he was my D tackle number 2, although I did have Logan Hall. How much pain am I in? I wanted a wide receiver so bad. But honestly, this makes the Packers defense so much better. This guy in the run game was great. Last mock draft I had, I never had Devontae Wyatt, but I was honestly always considering it. But Devontae Wyatt, he's a stout guy up front. I mean, 6'3", 315. He's not the behemoth Jordan Davis was, but he's even more of a better pass rusher. Gets off the ball quick. In the run game, he really controls the point of attack. Very tremendous upside, which is really what Brian Gutekunst loves. Brian Gutekunst loves guys with strong upsides, high upsides. That's definitely the case with Devontae Wyatt. So the Packers defense just keeps getting stronger and stronger. This guy had 113 tackles in his career. So you talk about the tackling being an issue with the Green Bay Packers. I don't think they're getting burned by the run game of the San Francisco 49ers next year. With what they've added in the draft, today in Quay Walker and now with hang on. Pull it back up here. Hang with me. Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker, you're not getting gassed on defense anymore by quick running backs, by, just a dominating run front that, is going to be possessed by teams like the 49ers that just constantly, time and time again, are beating us down in the playoffs. So Devontae Wyatt teaming up now, new Green Bay Packer, carrying the G. Honestly, how about it? Carry the freaking G. Eric Stokes, Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, they can carry the G. They did so at Georgia. They're going to keep doing so now in Green Bay as well. But the next team on the clock is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, back up behind us. Buccaneers on the clock, traded back. They're supposed to be the last pick, but traded back with the Jaguars. Actually, no, not the Patriots. The Tom Brady confusion gets all of us. Patriots on the clock, and actually giveaway. If the pick is not in, I don't believe so. Giveaway time with this pick. Get your picks in now for the New England Patriots. This will be our last giveaway for the wheel. So get your picks in the chat. I want to see them in there. New England Patriots up to bat here for their first pick in the first round. We'll see what we can do. Yeah, I saw you don't have to lie. I wanted a receiver, man. I wanted a receiver so bad. Still have options to get one. I mean, Christian Watson the second, I would be ecstatic. Alec Pierce in the third. I really love the fit of Alex Pierce. I think he's really the next up-and-coming guy that I think could be the next Jordy Nelson potentially of a Packers offense if they're able to land him. I have a great article on Alex Pierce and Christian Watson at PackersTalk.com. That is where I've now been working as of late as a staff writer for them. So shout out to those guys with them taking me on and letting me just talk some Packers. So as much as I don't like the first-round wide receiver, I do like some options in the second and third round for the Packers, and it's very Green Bay Packers-like to add some guys and some talent there as well. So we're going to try to pull up here some Patriots. Here we go. Yeah, right there at the bottom of the barrel. Patriots back up. Get your picks in. Javik Matariza. Oh, that's Deacon Matariza. Deacon hoping for Matariza with this one. Any more picks that we can get in for this one if no one gets any picks in? Matariza, Strange, Breece Hall, potentially. Yeah, keep getting them in. We'll see what we can do for the Patriots with this next pick. But the Patriots, 10-7 last season, made the playoffs, lost in the wild card, 47-17 to the Buffalo Bills. And rookie Mac Jones, first year at the helm at quarterback, started all 17 games, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks. The Patriots in an interesting situation here with what they can do on the board. I like potentially maybe a Nakobe Dean here with this pick, maybe even a corner. We talked about with the Texans pick how they value corners from the Patriots scheme, the Patriots tree. Patriots the same way. So maybe go with a corner here, potentially a Kyler Gordon, potentially maybe even Andrew Booth. Bill Belichick loves his lengthy guys. How about a wild selection and interesting pick here? How about a Dax Hill? I would like a Dax Hill here out of Michigan. Michigan guy, has connections with the Patriots in the past. Tom Brady, a Michigan guy as well. So I'm going to go a Nakobe Dean Andrew Booth, or even a Dax Hill. That's what I'm going to go with this pick. We'll see what happens here. Or even I get stumped. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, Booth. So we'll see. what happens here with this Patriots pick. The pick is in for the New England Patriots. Had a pretty good, decent draft last year going into it. With, coming out of Mac Jones, got Christian Barmore as well. They do need some help up front, but I don't know if any options are available that I can think of with this selection. So we'll see what the case can be here for the Patriots. I'm going to go to no more breaks. So we'll see what happens for it here with the Patriots with this next pick in the draft. And here comes the commissioner with the next pick. So the pick is in. Here it is, New England Patriots with their first pick, finally in the first round. Let's see what they'll go with here. Cole Strange out of Chattanooga. All right, so all right, we'll get this pulled up here for you. They stumped the truck here. Don't have the graphic for Cole Strange, but we'll pull something up here really quick for you. Wow, a guard out of Chattanooga. Also a guy I think played a little bit of center in Chattanooga. So they, freeing up some space here. We'll see if we can, get you guys a look at Cole Strange. Yeah, so don't have the graphic for him, but we'll pull this up real quick for you. Cole Strange, no way they go this route here out of Chattanooga. Honestly, it frees up the hole that is left from Shaq Mason departing at offensive guard. Not one I would have considered. Do we have some Javik and Will with the No way you came up with the Strange out of nowhere. But I couldn't see that we were in a break, so I couldn't see if you actually got it in or not before the pick was in. I don't know if your guys are ahead of me. No way you had Strange. So we're going to go. We'll add you to the list. Javik and Will adding to the wheel, the giveaway wheel. Summit. Yeah, shout out Summit. How about it? Bill Belichick with his dog picking. How about Summit picking that pick, according to Will? So next up, really quick, it's coming out of here fast. So let me write down Cole Strange, the commissioner, back up again for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs already moved up once and got Trent McDuffie at corner. What do they go with this time? And they're going, let's see, commissioner is making the selection. And we're going to see what the avenue is. So we're going to pull it up for you really quick. That's the guy I knew would be a first-round lock. A lot of people said he was going to slip out of it. I did not see it happening. I wanted him to be a Green Bay Packer, but he's ultimately going to become a Kansas City Chief. George Karlaftis. Going in now, George Karlaftis to the Chiefs. I really like this guy on the edge. One of my favorite edge rushers in my opinion. So we'll see if we can get him pulled up. Here we are. George Karlaftis, 6'5", 266 out of Purdue. I like this pick a lot for the Chiefs. So coming out of here with Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis, two defensive guys for the Chiefs. So still no wide receivers. They added Marquez Valdes-Scantling, added Juju Smith-Schuster, still Mecole Hardman. So, there's still options in the passing game. But they didn't replace Tyreek Hill like you would thought they would have. Still no X receiver on that offense. But on defense, Karlaftis, a big selection here. Amazing size, power, and instincts off the edge. A lot of people say he doesn't have the ideal length for the position, which might be why that there's a little bit of a slide here for Karlaftis, but I'm happy he ended up in the first round. This guy never quits on plays. Against the run, he's very great. I love the heart and just overall athleticism this guy has, and I'm happy to see him end up in the first round. He's here in person, so I knew he was going to make it. So I'm excited to see him here. The best thing about George Karlaftis is his ability to honestly convert speed into power. And you're seeing it here. Well, you're not seeing it, but on the broadcast, I'm watching it here. This guy puts speed into power, explodes up the field, great arm and spin moves. I love him as a power rusher in general. This guy coming off the edge in Kansas City is going to create a lot of havoc in KC. So I like this pick a lot for them. George Karlaftis out of Purdue. So now Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis adding in to that defense in Kansas City. George Karlaftis. Perfect. Yeah, Javik Will in the chat. Yeah, you guys are on the Cole Strange. Honestly, I thought you guys were messing with me. I thought you were like having some Doctor Strange jokes in the chat or something. Uh, but no. You guys are on it. Cole Strange, guard out of Chattanooga. Who would have thought? So we'll see what happens next up with the Cincinnati Bengals now on the clock. I think they go secondary here. There's, I linked a lot with the Bengals. Actually, I want to see if there's a trade. I want to see if there's a trade up here. I think this is a good avenue for a quarterback potentially that could be on the board. But we'll see what happens. It's only one quarterback, which is insane. Kenny Pickett, the only quarterback off the board in the first round. I had 4 in my mock draft. That's obviously not going to be the case anymore with what we're seeing here today. But Cincinnati Bengals, I like a corner here, or even a secondary in general. Honestly, no Kiari Long, which I thought would be a great pick. I find it hard to see just the play style of Kyler Gordon, the play style of Andrew Booth as well. I don't see them meshing well in Cincinnati. So unless a Cole Strange Jr. comes out of nowhere and just stumps the truck again for our graphics that we have up on the show, that we don't have another offensive lineman out of nowhere I did not consider in the first round. I think it's got to be secondary. Not Kyler Gordon, not Andrew Booth, maybe a Roger McCreary. Oh, Dax Hill. I mean, Dax Hill is so versatile. Like, I have him listed as a safety, but he is so versatile. This guy played in the slot. This guy can play on the perimeter at corner. You would have to think. I mean, if they're going to go secondary, I think the pick here has to be Daxton Hill for the Cincinnati Bengals. But, I mean, real quick, let's just talk about the Bengals before they make this selection. But, I mean, how did I not think of Daxton Hill? What a great fit. He's on the board if they can make this happen. I would very well be a huge supporter of that. So here we go. Cincinnati Bengals. Last year, Super Bowl appearance for the Bengals. I don't know if we saw the Bengals fan in the chat, but if we do, shout out to the Cincinnati Bengals. But 10-7 last year, AFC North champs, lost in the Super Bowl 23-20 to the Rams. Obviously, big need for them was the offensive line, but they honestly freed that up. Filled that up, in free agency. Adding in Lael Collins, Alex Kappa, Ted Karras as well on the offensive line. I think they did what needs to be done with the way the board is shaken up right now. No Tyler Linderbaum, no Cole Strange on the board here. I think you're in a position where you can go with the defensive back. We saw Eli Apple last year in the playoffs. We saw him in the Super Bowl. They need help in that defense. They lost Trey Waynes at corner. I think you go with a corner here. And I really like the fit of Daxton Hill, though. I think Daxton Hill fits this team very well. A versatile guy that they can move around. Jesse Bates is playing on the franchise tag this year. His future is uncertain. Daxton Hill played, safety in college, but also has experience all over, the secondary. Plays in the slot. He played, up high safety. He played box safety. He played on the perimeter, covering number 1 wide receivers in college. I think Daxton Hill would be a good fit here to the Cincinnati Bengals, and we'll see if they can make that happen or not. So we'll just wait and see what they do with it. So coverage back up. Missed a chance at a water break there, unfortunately. Trying to get back and reorganize for the last 2 picks. But wrapping up the first round here, 2 picks remain, Cincinnati Bengals and the Minnesota Vikings, who had traded back with the Detroit Lions earlier in the draft. Seemed like so long ago now. So we'll see exactly what happens here and how this transpires for the Cincinnati Bengals and what avenue they want to go with this pick as well. But before we get to that, we have a word from Ian Rappaport right now talking about Malik Willis, which is honestly surprising. How is Malik Willis still on the board? It is incredible to me to see him still sitting there, not getting drafted. But here comes the commissioner for the Bengals pick at 31. All right, and who day Cincinnati Bengals are going to select, looks like Dax Hill. It will be him, Daxton Hill, out of Michigan. going in here with this pick. A big pickup by, let's see here. Big pickup, like this one a lot, by the Cincinnati Bengals. Really enjoy this. What a absolute great scenario they put themselves in with this selection. Daxton Hill, like I said, a great fit for what they want to do on that defense. Fills a lot of need that they have. A versatile guy on that defense. Bring you back into it. Daxton Hill, very versatile. 6 foot, 192, has insane coverage instincts and play speed. Like I said, he spent time aligned in the middle of the field. He covered the slot. He even played on the perimeter. Great anticipation, great range, fluid guy in his hips. I like Daxton Hill a lot. I have him as my safety number 3, but as a defensive back alone, I think he's one of the top guys that you can get in this year's draft. Great explosive blitzer, always around the ball, whether it's in the run or the pass, all coming from my scouting report I had on the guy. So next up, pick number 32 is going to be the Minnesota Vikings, and we'll see what they elect to go with here at 32 after making a trade with the Detroit Lions. So we'll see if we can get back on track. So no, honestly, I don't think any additions to the first round. We're keeping the same 32 teams. Just rework the order like crazy this entire time. Here we go, Minnesota Vikings. Their first pick in the draft. I mean, honestly, how about Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and his first draft as the general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, trading back in a big interdivisional trade with the Detroit Lions. This guy's from the Andrew Berry, Howie Roseman tree, Eagles and Browns. No, I'm not going to do it. They're doing it on the TV. I'm not doing the skull. I would be banished forever from all Packers community if I did a skull. But maybe we get a skull chant in the chat if we got any Vikings fans left in here. But the Minnesota Vikings, first draft of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, a guy who, like I said, favors trading down to get picks. I should have should have had this down to begin with. But expect him to focus his first round picks on premium positions. You got quarterback, left tackle, wide receiver, edge, and cornerback. Maybe a cornerback in the cards here, potentially for the Minnesota Vikings. That was a big need I had them addressing at 12 when they were still sitting there. I had them getting Trent McDuffie in my mock draft. Maybe they go with a Kyler Gordon here, potentially with this pick. But we'll see what happens to wrap up the first round of the draft. And then we'll get back to the wheel, do a little wheel spin with the guys that we have on there as well. So we'll see what happens here with this last pick. I mean, it has to be, some sort of cornerback, you would have to think. Pick is in for this one, the Minnesota Vikings selecting here. I mean, honestly, it has to be a corner. No way it's not a corner. They need desperate help in their secondary. 28th last year against the pass in that defense. You would think their safety is already established. And Harrison Smith, they do lose Xavier Woods, but you would think corner would have to be the play here. So you'd have to go with maybe a Kyler Gordon with this pick. So we'll see what happens. This one could be surprising. Malik time. Do we go with a quarterback for the second year in a row in the draft for the Minnesota Vikings? Took Kellen Mond last year, played one game, had 5 yards, and a 14.9 QBR in that game against, I believe, the Green Bay Packers in that one. Did they go with Malik Willis at 32? But the pick is in. Minnesota Vikings are picking. My gut feeling goes corner. We'll see what happens. This is also the first year, like I said, of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah at general manager, but also Kevin O'Connell at head coach, taking over for Mike Zimmer. So we'll see what happens here with this. Yeah, Willis time. I would love to see Malik Willis, land this first round. I'm surprised he hasn't already. Still sitting there on the board. He did not get his name called. Best available, Daniel Jeremiah's list: Nakobe Dean, Malik Willis, Breece Hall, Boyd Mafe, Andrew Booth, Kenneth Walker, Arnold Ebiketie, Kyler Gordon, Travis Jones, and Christian Harris, which is some interesting selections on his pick. So we'll see what the Vikings do here. Again, I'm leaning with the secondary pick. I'm leaning with a corner pick here. At least a guy in the secondary. We'll see. Roger Goodell got the chain on coming out here. So we'll see what happens with the Minnesota Vikings with this selection. And here it comes. For the last pick of the first round of the NFL draft, the Vikings will be selecting. And there's my guy. Wow. Lewis Cine. What a pick by the Minnesota Vikings. I love Lewis Cine. Now, I talked about Daxton Hill being my number 3 guy at safety. Lewis Cine was my number 2. I had him just, right below Kyle Hamilton at the 2 spot. Lewis Cine, I think, is an incredible athlete. And honestly, this guy is insanely smart. I think he's one of the smartest players in this year's draft. I really, I wanted to fit him in at 32 to the Detroit Lions, but, making that trade up for Jameson Williams, the Vikings slid back and they took the guy at 32. I still wanted it anyways. So Malik Willis falls out of the first round, and so does, Matt Corral, Desmond Ridder. Still a lot of great talent to go in the second round, but Lewis Cine, real quick, break him down. Big hitter. Excellent eyes. That's what they have up here. I thought he played great in the running lane with a lot of aggression. This guy absolutely pot people. This is a physical tackler for his size. 6'1", 200 pounds. He was kind of on the smaller end for a safety. Maybe Minnesota plays around with him at corner potentially even. But deep zone, he did a great job playing the quarterback in the games that I watched. Was at his best when there was space between him and the wide receivers, and just really able to watch and see a play develop and react to it. So Lewis Cine closes out our first round of the NFL draft. We're going to run through the picks. A lot of trades. This draft board is completely written all over with all the trades that happen. But we'll run through the picks and then get to the wheel and see what happens. So Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Derek Stingley Jr., Sauce Gardner, Kayvon Thibodeaux, Ike Ekwonu, Evan Neal, Drake London, Charles Cross, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, Jordan Davis, Kyle Hamilton, Kenyon Green, Jahan Dotson, Zion Johnson, Treylon Burks, Trevor Penning, Kenny Pickett, Trey McDuffie, Quay Walker, Kiari Elam, Tyler Smith, Tyler Linderbaum, Jermaine Johnson II, Devin Lloyd, Devontae Wyatt, Cole Strange, George Karlaftis, Dax Hill, and Lewis Cine. So 2 safeties round us up. That is your first round of the NFL draft. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. And before I go, it's giveaway time. So we're going to go to the board here and see what we can come up with. So hang tight while I put it in and see who our lucky winner of the giveaway is. So we have Keegan Edge from the first group, along with Adam as well. And also Will. We have Michael. And then Javik, and then Will again on the board. So let me switch it over. Let you guys see if we can finagle with this a little bit. Get you guys ready to go to see the draft, the wheel that we have. Honestly, pretty impressed with myself pulling that wheel up that quickly. So the wheel, working on getting it established and pulled up for you guys. Transitioned it over. Here's the wheel for the giveaway. So a gift card or one of my boys back home if you are going to be with us as well. Let's see who our lucky winner is. And it is going to be Adam. So we'll hook you up. You're the big giveaway today. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. Adam will be the big winner of the wheel and getting in for the next pick. So we'll bring it back over. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in of the first round of the NFL. I'm excited. Coverage continues tomorrow, not from me, but on NFL Network at ESPN. Check it out. The NFL draft order tomorrow kicks off with, I believe, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 33, followed by the Detroit Lions. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. It has been an absolute blast over almost 4 hours. Yes, just right about where we were at last year as well. So yeah, thank you guys in the chat. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. It'll help me out a lot. What a draft it has been. Thank you all so much. And until next time, peace.